Rebirth as a Russian tycoon. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 326, Dubai International Motor Show. The key is that among these Lamborghini sports cars, 2 are Lamborghini Venonus and 3 are Lamborghini Reventons. The others are Lamborghini Bulls of the same level as Mavey. In this way, someone's outfit is really ordinary and indistinguishable from the crowd. When driving on the road, people still have a certain rate of turning back. But once at the Dubai International Motor Show, Mavey really got what he wanted and became an ordinary rich man. But Mavey doesn't mind. It's good to be an ordinary person occasionally. At least you don't have to cast all kinds of attention wherever you go, which makes you feel uncomfortable sometimes. The launch of Bugatti Veyron not only attracted local rich people in Dubai, even rich people from the United States, China, Saudi Arabia and other countries came to join in the fun. The reason is not just him, the gimmick of the world's most expensive luxury car. The key is Bugatti, which was acquired by the Mavey Group. Based on the rarity of Lamborghini Veneno and Lamborghini Reventon, many rich people failed to grab them. So this time, they are united and have prepared a huge amount of cash just to buy back the Bugatti Veyron. It's a pity they don't know the price yet. It is estimated that many rich people will shed tears of heartache when they know the truth later. Mavey, wearing a mask, sunglasses and a hat, parked the Lamborghini Bull. Then he walked out of the car leisurely. Then he entered the exhibition hall of the Dubai International Motor Show through the VIP channel. The magnificent hall is very avant-garde in design, lacking the golden coffee color of the traditional Arab style. There are many more fashion elements, which looks more appropriate. The Bugatti Veyron booth is located in Hall F, which is specially prepared for world-class luxury car brands. For example, Ferrari, Porsche, McLaren, Rolls-Royce, Maybach, etc. Of course, Lamborghini, another luxury car brand under the Mavey Group, also appeared on the same stage in Hall F in order not to steal the limelight from Bugatti. Lamborghini's 2 concept cars did not choose to be released today. Needless to say, these 2 concept cars are the design inspirations and element proposed by Mavey, based on his memories of his previous life. As an ordinary visitor, Mavey followed the crowd to Hall F to see the new products released by major luxury car brands this year. At the entrance, the Phantom armored car of Rolls-Royce is deeply loved by the local tycoons in the Middle East. This head of state armored car was officially accepted for reservations this year. Mavey glanced at the Rolls-Royce booth. There were several Middle Eastern tycoons wearing Arab costumes, consulting sales in front of the car. The car models who were posing on the side cooperated with the media reporters, posing in various professional shapes and smiling sweetly. Mavey casually passed by the Rolls-Royce booth and then came to the core area in the center of the venue. That is, the core area where the 4 luxury car brands of Bugatti, Ferrari, Porsche and Lamborghini gather. There are obviously many more reporters, media and local tycoon guests there than in the periphery. Even Mavey, who was dressed in disguise, found that his 2 Dubai friends, Amr and Amir, were waiting for the exhibitor's unveiling ceremony in front of the Bugatti booth. As usual, the newly developed Bugatti sports car was covered tightly with black velvet. It was presented in the center of the booth, and next to it, there was a huge LCD TV. It seemed that something would be played later. In addition to Mavey's Dubai friends, he also found that there were many Chinese faces in front of the booth. However, since it was the core area of the auto show, the open and secret struggles were also quite fierce. Lamborghini and Bugatti were from the same group, so there was no problem. But the old rival Ferrari and Porsche, which competed with Mavey in France, were 2 car companies. This secret competition was huge. Ferrari launched the Enzo Dubai Special Edition, which was made of carbon fiber materials from head to toe, and it was limited to 7. Originally, there was no so-called Enzo Dubai Special Edition sports car in the previous life. But because of a butterfly effect caused by someone, in order to ensure its industry status and not lose to Lamborghini and Bugatti, Ferrari designed this model specially. As soon as the car was unveiled, it attracted the attention of many local tyrants. It's a pity that the 7 limited edition cars have already been booked in advance by the nobles in the Middle East. The auto show is just a formality. In terms of price, each car is priced at $2.7 million. As for Porsche, it has designed the Porsche Carrera GT Luxury Special Edition. Based on the original Carrera GT, it is equipped with a twin-turbocharged engine to increase the output power to a very powerful 1000 HP. And the door is changed to a gull-wing design, and the roof is changed to carbon fiber material, and the speed can exceed 402 meters per hour. This car is limited to 12 units worldwide, and almost all of them have been booked and collected. Anyway, such a collector's edition, commemorative edition, and special edition limited edition sports car, ordinary rich people can't buy it at all. Its price is a little more expensive than the Carrera Great. Counting the 4% import tariff of the UAE, the price is $2.55 million. Mawei followed the crowd to the core exhibition area. He also saw the 2 special edition sports cars of Ferrari and Porsche, and he also ordered one of each for collection. After all, sports cars are innocent, although they are rivals in the business world. However, just as Mawei, in disguise, came to the Bugatti exhibition area, ready to be a strong onlooker of the crowd, something that shocked the crowd suddenly happened. That is, the great Prince of Dubai also came to the auto show. And with a large number of bodyguards, he walked all the way to the core exhibition area. "Hi, Your Highness." Along the way, many wealthy people in Dubai greeted the prince warmly and respectfully. Everyone knows that the Prince of Dubai loves sports cars. The garage at home collects various expensive limited edition sports cars, including the sales staff at the booths of major automakers. After seeing the appearance of the Prince of Dubai, one by one, they are looking forward to the prince's visit to their exhibition area. After all, with the big money of the prince of the local tycoon, buying a car is like buying a children's toy, without even blinking an eye. But obviously, the appearance of the Prince of Dubai is not for those luxury cars he already owns. He came for the Bugatti Veyron of the Mawei Group. That's the Prince of Dubai? Is he here to compete for the Bugatti Veyron? I don't know, I think so. But then again, Bugatti, a subsidiary of the Maverick Group, is really awesome. They didn't even accept reservations before the new car was released, so car lovers like us had to come all the way to Dubai. Yeah, I don't know how he decided on the price. He didn't reveal anything about the car's appearance or performance. I just hope he doesn't surprise us later. Otherwise, it's really speechless to keep people on edge. Chapter 327 Bugatti Veyron vs MiG-29 Fighter. In the crowd, some wealthy people who came from abroad were very wary of the prince's appearance. Because Bugatti has not announced the price of Bugatti Veyron, nor the number of units in the world, this leaves a lot of suspense for everyone. What if it is limited to only 5 units worldwide? With the status and funds of the Prince of Dubai, there is absolutely no pressure to buy one. It means that there are only 4 Bugatti Veyrons left for everyone to compete. The number is directly reduced by 20%. Ignoring the discussion of the crowd, the Prince of Dubai came directly to the Bugatti exhibition area with his bodyguards. Then he entered the inner area without any obstacles. He found Bugatti's president, Baptiste, who was standing in the backstage and preparing for the press conference. "Hello, are you the executive president of Bugatti? Our prince is a friend of your group chairman, Mr. Mawei. I came here today to show my support for Mr. Mawei. How do I make a reservation for your Bugatti Veyron?" Before His Royal Highness could speak, the servant beside him asked for him. Bugatti is really good. Since it was acquired by the Mawei Group, it has become a solid block. No matter how His Royal Highness sends people to ask about the reservation of new cars, the official reply is always a polite refusal, and no one who asks will give a clear answer. The Prince of Dubai was too embarrassed to call Mawei to ask him to help arrange it. After all, Russia has been in trouble during this period. First, there was the anti-terrorism war in Afghanistan, and then there was the maritime competition between Hungary, France, and South Korea. They all went to the United Nations. In addition to this reason, there is another important factor, that is, the degree of Russia's elimination of the Taliban. The degree of support for the Northern Alliance has a profound impact on the trend of energy prices in the entire Middle East. In addition, they have recently developed a super long-range self-propelled rocket launcher. If this thing is sold to neighboring countries, it will directly threaten the safety of the UAE. What if it is hijacked by terrorists in neighboring countries, and then blackmailed by the UAE, and the rocket launcher is fired? If it does not pay, life will be very difficult. Dubai received bomb threats a few years ago. Dubai police also intercepted 2 bomb plots. So the Prince of Dubai didn't want to trouble Mawei for his personal matter and ask him to give him special privileges. So he had to come here in person today to see what the Bugatti Veyron looks like. He also wanted to support Mawei's business and leave a good impression. Mawei was quite good enough to make the Prince of Dubai condescend to this extent. I'm sorry, Your Highness. Our chairman has specifically instructed that before the press conference, no one can disclose any questions about the new car. I'm really sorry. Bugatti President Baptiste refused cautiously and nervously. He is not someone who has enough identity and background to refuse any special requests from the royal family and dignitaries. His Highness the Prince of Dubai has almost never heard anyone refuse him like this since he was born. But for the sake of someone on the far coast of the ocean, the Prince of Dubai still nodded to show his understanding. If it were any other sports car supplier, they would dare to talk to His Highness like this. I'm afraid that before tomorrow, in almost half an hour, relevant departments, such as the tax bureau and the fire department, will come to investigate thoroughly. They can find any reason to make them suspend business and rectify. Some Middle Eastern tycoons and foreign tycoons around saw that Mawei's Bugatti company was so arrogant, even the Prince of Dubai couldn't figure it out. So one by one, they waited to see if the Bugatti Veyron they developed could be as arrogant as their temper. At this time, Bugatti President Baptiste walked to the front of the stage with a microphone. Then, with a smile on his face, he said to the reporters in the crowd outside the venue, "Thank you all for waiting here for the Bugatti Veyron new car launch held by my Bugatti Automobile Company. Before the launch begins, I first want to express my most sincere gratitude to my boss, Mr. Mawei. If it weren't for him to lend a helping hand to my Bugatti when it was in trouble, I'm afraid our Bugatti would still be in bankruptcy at this time," Baptiste said with emotion while holding the microphone. Little did he know that the boss he was thanking, Mawei, was standing in disguise in the audience. He was quietly witnessing all this. He was just enjoying the leisurely life of an invisible rich man. Mawei didn't want to reveal his identity, so he just wanted to stay quietly in the corner. Baptiste spoke from the bottom of his heart for more than 5 minutes. Then he turned the topic to the new car launch conference. "Okay, let's leave more for later. Now let's talk about what you are most interested in." Baptiste clapped his hands, and then the staff standing by took the initiative to go on stage and completely peeled off the black velvet covering the sports car. Suddenly, a cool-looking, all-black Bugatti Veyron convertible sports car appeared gorgeously in front of everyone. Its plump and streamlined body is completely different from the styles of Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Porsche. It can even be said to be completely different. The fat and round front and rear of the car make people mistakenly think that the car is like its body, running very slowly. After all, in people's traditional concept, sports cars are all flat. But the fact is just the opposite, because at this time, the LCD TV next to the booth was turned on by the staff. Before everyone could be too addicted or confused by the gorgeous appearance of Bugatti Veyron, Baptiste, who was standing in front of the stage, suddenly said to everyone, "Everyone, please look here. The video that will be played on TV is specially arranged by our chairman Mawei. It is a video of the competition between the new car Bugatti Veyron and the Russian Air Force MiG-29 fighter." As soon as Baptiste finished speaking, everyone in the audience was immediately attracted by what he said, including the Prince of Dubai standing in the inner area, and the wealthy people from all over the world who came to see the car. All of them were stunned by Mawei's amazing imagination. What? Did I hear it right just now? A sports car and an airplane are competing? This is a MiG-29 jet fighter? Sports cars burn gasoline, and fighters burn aviation fuel. They are not at the same level at all. Can they be compared? In the impression of almost everyone, fighters are so fast that they can fly into the sky. Cars are definitely incomparable. Unless the rules of the game favor sports cars. But if it's so unfair, what's the point? It's just a show. Chapter 328. Terrified tycoons from various countries. Everyone, please be patient and don't jump to conclusions. The rules of the competition in the video are as follows. Our Bugatti Veyron sports car and the MiG-29 fighter start on the same runway and from the same starting line. Then they sprint forward for 1 mile, which is 1.6 kilometers. Then both need to return to the home base in time at 1 mile. In the end, whoever runs back to the finish line first wins. Baptiste told the media and the wealthy people in the audience the speed rules of the Bugatti sports car and the fighter that Mavey had made. Such a competition is fair and there is no deliberate element in it. So after listening, everyone nodded in conviction. Then they turned their eyes to the LCD TV. In the picture, a black hardtop Bugatti Veyron was parked on the runway as still as a mountain. Not far away from it, a MiG-29 fighter of the Russian Air Force was parked. After the referee measured, the front position of the Bugatti Veyron and the front of the MiG fighter were both perpendicular to the same horizontal line. Next, we waited for the race to start and the referee to wave the flag. We would see who would win or lose between the two monsters. Half a minute later, when the referee raised the black and white checkered flag in his hand and waved it fiercely, suddenly, the Bugatti Veyron sports car and the MiG-29 fighter jet parked on the runway ignited their engines at the same time. Then they accelerated and rushed straight forward. The maximum speed of the Bugatti Veyron is 434 km per hour. It only takes 2.5 seconds to accelerate from 0 to 100 km. So his start was very advantageous. At the beginning of the race, he was ahead of the MiG fighter jet by a long way. It was not until half a mile later that he was overtaken by the MiG fighter jet that came from behind. Looking at the hot flames sprayed from the tail of the fighter jet, the audience could imagine how strong the airflow was even through the screen. At this time, the fighter jet had already taken off. The Bugatti Veyron sports car was sprinting at full speed on the ground towards the turning point 800 meters away, challenging the extreme results that a sports car can achieve. The real battle of who will win has just begun. The MiG fighter needs to rise to a certain height before it can flip and turn in the air. The driver of the Bugatti Veyron needs to brake very accurately and turn around quickly at the turning point. Then run back to the finish line at full speed. The braking time of the Bugatti Veyron from 100 km to 0 only takes 2.3 seconds. Such a powerful braking system made the audience and the media open their mouths slightly. Obviously, they were very engaged. At such a fast speed, it can stop at any time. Isn't this braking system too powerful? When turning, I saw that the rear wing of the car opened horizontally. Is this the rear wing air brake? What about the brake disc part? Some local tyrants began to discuss it in whispers. I have to say that Mawey's video creativity is very good. At this time in 2002, there was no sports car that dared to compete with fighter jets in speed. Even the modified Porsche Carrera next door is about 10% inferior to him in terms of maximum speed. In the second half of the race, the Bugatti Veyron has turned around accurately and sprinted towards the finish line. The MiG fighter in the air has also flipped over. It began to fly downwards continuously, trying to cross the finish line at a low altitude. At the end of the video, the Bugatti Veyron arrived at the finish line 1.7 seconds later than the MiG-29 fighter. However, this result is enough to make the sports car proud. After all, one is a supersonic fighter, and the flight speed is calculated in Mach. The other is a mid-engine, four-wheel drive. The difference of less than 2 seconds is already very surprising. So some local tyrants standing in the backfield, even including the Prince of Debay, can't help but want to know how to sell this super sports car in front of you and how much to sell it for. Everyone has watched the video. Now let's talk about the sales method that everyone is also interested in. This Bugatti Veyron sports car is divided into two versions, hardtop version and convertible version. There is no sales limit worldwide. It's okay for individuals to buy as many as they want, Baptiste said to everyone with a microphone. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the Middle Eastern tycoons and American tycoons standing in the back or tilted their heads, expressing some surprise and disappointment. For these top rich people in the world, a sports car with no quantity limit has lost its appeal. Because if you have money, you can buy it, and there is no value and meaning in collecting it. This is essentially the same as the cars sold in 4S stores. It's just more advanced. How much does that Bugatti Veyron sell for? Anyway, I'm here, so I might as well buy one, and take it back. Some wealthy people who came from afar thought to themselves, spending money to buy sports cars is their basic operation, and it can also be called daily life. But, just when the top tycoons in the backstage were thinking this, Baptist, to their surprise, continued, although this Bugatti sports car is produced in unlimited quantities, its initial R&D cost is, to be honest, very expensive. In order to develop this new car, our chairman Maweli has invested no less than $300 million in total. So the price of the whole car is $10.4 million. Bugatti president Baptist just said the offer of $10 million. The rich people standing in the audience were stunned for a moment, thinking that they had heard it wrong. $10.4 million? A sports car? Is it so expensive? The Ferrari Enzo Special Edition next door is only $2.7 million, right? Porsche Carrera GT, $2.55 million. Is it 4 times more expensive now? A rich man from the United States looked at the Bugatti Veyron on the stage with surprise. Although he could afford $10 million, it was a bit too much for him to buy a car. After all, the most expensive sports cars we usually buy are only over $2 million. The cheapest ones can be bought for $400,000, which is more than 20 times more expensive. No wonder there is no limit on the quantity. It turns out that this price alone can stop 99% of people from buying it. $10.4 million, which is almost 90 million RMB in RMB. If I bite my teeth and buy it, and then ship it back to China, including the 50% tariff, value-added tax, and consumption tax, that would be 135 million. A rich second generation who came to Dubai from China calculated the price in a dark place. Not to mention the 50% tariff. Even the factory price of Bugatti Veyron is a bit too much for him. After all, his family only gave him more than 50 million, asking him not to embarrass his family and buy the car back. But now that he heard the price, it was absolutely impossible. It would take 350 million to ship the car back to China. His father would never pay this money. Chapter 329. The first generation of Google mobile phone is launched. The Bugatti Veyron, this super expensive price, directly scared off half of the local tyrants. The rest, like the Prince of Dubai, who is ranked second in the UAE rich list, did not have much pressure and decided to buy it on the spot. I want 3 of these Bugatti Veyrons. 1 convertible and 2 hardtops. The Prince of Dubai said very flatteringly. He wanted to tell those who backed out that it was not that the car was too expensive and no one bought it. It was that its manufacturing cost and R&D cost were inherently more expensive than other sports cars. So this price was justified. I want to reserve one too. Under the leadership of the Prince of Dubai, many local tyrants in the Middle East decided to spend $10.4 million on the spot to buy the Bugatti Veyron. After all, there is only one sports car that can race with fighter jets. As for Koenigsegg, it will not be developed until 10 years later. Maweli, who was standing outside, saw all the intentions of the Prince of Dubai. He silently took out his mobile phone from his pocket and called Baptist. Hello, Chairman Maweli. I'm currently at the Dubai International Motor Show, doing a new car launch for Bugatti Veyron. Our sales are pretty good at the moment, and 12 guests have reserved this new car on the spot. Baptist happily told Maweli the good news as soon as he received his call. Well, I know, I saw it all. It's a good job. By the way, please tell the Prince of Dubai for me that the Tornado self-propelled rocket launcher that the UAE cares about, we in Russia, will not sell to Yemen, Iran and other countries. Yemen and Iran, that Maweli mentioned, are very close to the UAE. Both countries are relatively chaotic, which is very suitable for breeding terrorists. What if Russia sells ultra-long-range rocket launchers to their government? Some corrupt officials inside may sell it to local terrorist organizations at a high price. In this way, the Middle East will be in chaos. with a range of 650 kilometers. Many countries will worry that they will be baptized by this self-propelled rocket launcher one day. After all, these militants can do anything. Whirlwind self-propelled rocket launcher? Oh, okay, Chairman Maweli, I get it. No, you mean you saw it all? You were at the Dubai International Auto Show. The information that Maweli casually revealed startled Baptist. He didn't expect the chairman to come to the auto show in person, so he hurriedly looked up and looked around while talking on the phone. But no matter how he looked, he couldn't find Maweli. The reason was that someone had already left the core exhibition area and hidden in the human relationship. Baptist was the first time to come into contact with the arms deal mentioned by the chairman. After he finished talking to Maweli on the phone, he immediately told the Prince of Dubai the original words, "Your Highness, our chairman Maweli asked me to tell you something about the Whirlwind self-propelled rocket launcher. He will not sell it to Yemen or Iran and other unstable countries. Please rest assured." After listening to the words of the president of Bugatti, the Prince of Dubai, who was originally choosing the color of the sports car, suddenly stopped choosing and turned to look at him. Really? Did Maweli really say that? The Prince of Dubai couldn't help but smile with relief. With Maweli's assurance, he believed that the Russian military would also give face to the UAE, lest they live under the threat of rocket launchers. Yes, Your Highness. In fact, our chairman was just here. It seems that he came for a while and then left again. Maybe he didn't want to attract attention. Compared with the ostentatiousness of the Prince of Dubai, the low-key and restrained of someone formed a sharp contrast with him. Hearing that Maweli had been to the scene, the Prince of Dubai hurriedly looked around like Baptist just now. But he couldn't find someone's trace. Ahem. Okay, then I will call and thank your chairman in person later. The Prince of Dubai also thought of this sharp contrast. However, he just likes to be glamorous, cool. He wants to be as low-key and mysterious as someone, which is really not his forte. The release of the new Bugatti Veyron, which shocked many local tycoons, refreshed everyone's understanding of the world's most expensive luxury car. On the day of the press conference, Bugatti sold 21 Veyron sports cars, almost earned back the money that Maweli invested. Compared with the previous life, when Volkswagen sold one car for $1 million, the results were very different. Bugatti did not need to lose $3.5 million for every sports car sold. Until 2017, it was unable to make back the money because there was inflation. After the press conference, the extremely expensive price of Bugatti Veyron appeared directly on the homepage of sports car information websites in various countries, including the video of Bugatti Veyron racing with MiG-29 fighter jets. It was also uploaded to the internet. This earth-shattering expensive price, as well as the shocking video, directly scared a group of netizens who were just watching the show to pee in front of their computers. Damn, am I seeing right? $10.4 million? This car is too scary. What a great sports car. It's on par with the third generation fighter. It only missed the finish line by 1.7 seconds. My dad asked me why I was kneeling in front of the computer to watch the video, and I was speechless. When can I have a Bugatti Veyron? Forget it, I'll just keep kneeling in front of the computer. Because of Maweli's investment and involvement, Bugatti, which was originally in a bankrupt state, shined in advance in this life. Not only that, the smartphone that Maweli invested in and developed 2 years ago is currently in the final stage of completion. The entire Google company has poured a lot of resources into it. Not only did they do their best to develop the Android system, but they also strictly controlled the hardware. They tried to do the best job of the task assigned by Maweli. Chairman Maweli, we expect that the first generation of Google mobile phones will be officially released in about 2 weeks. According to your instructions, we have built 796 Google smartphone experience stores in major commercial centers in major cities in the United States, Russia, China, Ukraine and other important cities. When the first batch of mobile phones are produced and put online, they will be sent to these experience stores as soon as possible for customers to try out. The president of Google reported on the phone. At the beginning, Maweli said that he wanted to develop smartphones and let Google get involved in this field. President Sheja was a little worried for a while. After all, Nokia, Motorola and other old mobile phone companies currently monopolize most of the global market. It is harder than climbing to the sky for new entrants to get a share of them, especially for those like Mavey who have taken a different approach and develop smartphones. It is equivalent to not following the path of Nokia and Motorola at all. Chapter 330 Mavey Smartphone Experience Store. This operation directly broke the original concept of mobile phones. If it is not done well, not only will the work fail, but it will also bring huge negative impact to Google. Now Google is a listed company, and any slight disturbance will directly affect its stock price, that is, market value. It is no joke. Okay, then let's see what happens next. For the appearance of this smartphone 5 years earlier, Mavey, who is well aware of the butterfly effect, is looking forward to what kind of chain reaction it will cause to the world. With Mavey's current status, any of his actions will affect the change of the world and the direction. For example, the Cyclone self-propelled rocket launcher, and the upcoming Google smartphone. Well, Chairman Mavey, we are very confident in this smartphone. Google President Zhige said excitedly on the phone. At the beginning, he was very worried about messing things up. But under Mavey's layout, their Google executives felt that this was really promising. And in order to break the original concept of mobile phones and the instinctive rejection of new things in the world, Chairman Mavey did many things that made them admire him very much. For example, the 796 Google smartphone experience stores around the world are a very appropriate and innovative move. Selling smartphones directly on the market will result in many users having no chance to get in touch with its powerful functions. In this way, it is easy to encounter Waterloo as soon as it is launched. The smartphone experience store that Mavey said he would create perfectly solves this problem. I believe that after users have used their Google smartphones, most people will discard all the brick phones and full phones in their hands. Even if the price of Google smartphones is much more expensive, it is definitely worth the money. People are willing to spend this money to buy it. Mavey Group's smartphone experience store has attracted strong attention from mobile phone giants Nokia and Motorola since it appeared. Although these two giant groups have never competed with Mavey Group, given Mavey's performance in other industries, the two giants are also a little worried that he will one day pry the entire mobile phone industry. Leading to this era, it will be subverted. So as the conservatives of mobile phones, they will do their best to prevent Mavey from taking away their existing industry status. Of course, it all depends on whether Mavey's Google company has the strength to shake it. If it's just thunder and rain, then Nokia and Motorola, the two giants, will definitely not take it seriously. President Davis, Google just announced that their 796 smartphone experience stores around the world will be officially opened in 2 weeks. At that time, Google smartphones in the store will be free to experience without spending any money. At the Motorola Group headquarters, a group of senior executives held an emergency meeting on Google's smartphones. It should be said that 2 years ago, Motorola also developed a smartphone, model Xiansho A6188. But the sales were not ideal. So much so that Motorola gave up the idea of developing smartphones. President Davis, who was sitting at the highest position at the conference table, listened to his subordinates' reports with wrinkles on his face. Then he asked some questions. Are there any relevant information about Google smartphones? For example, the style, appearance, or functions? That President Davis, we haven't been able to find out much about Google smartphones. We only know that they seem to have a whole screen. There are not even number buttons. As for what they look like, we can only wait for their experience store to open and find out as soon as possible. The male executive of Motorola said helplessly. Google is very strict in terms of confidentiality. All personnel are not allowed to carry video equipment, let alone take any items out of the institute or factory. They must pass strict inspection before they can be released. Fortunately, at this time, mobile phones did not have camera functions, so it is also very easy to check. As for those researchers who know the secrets, they have signed confidentiality agreements in advance. A whole screen? Then how can he make calls with this phone? President Davis asked his subordinates, who was a little confused. As the president of Motorola, this is the first time he has heard of such a magical mobile phone design. President Davis, maybe the machine designed by Google is really smart. Even the dial button can help users to broadcast automatically. A senior official at the conference table made a joke humorously. At this time, almost all the Motorola executives sitting at the table couldn't help laughing. From their attitude, it can be seen that Motorola is somewhat disdainful of Google, which is trying to compete for their industry resources and shake their industry status. Especially when they heard that the mobile phone they designed didn't even have a dial button. This is simply a strange flower in the mobile phone industry. The atmosphere of the meeting at Motorola was lively. Nokia, also a mobile phone giant, had a different look. Their Nokia 7650 mobile phone will also be launched in 2 weeks. Nokia 7650 is the world's first Symbian system smartphone, the first slider phone, and the first 5-dimensional joystick phone. As early as 2002 in the previous life, it was created by Nokia, and it was known as the king of mobile phones by the media. Not long after it was launched, it helped Nokia occupy more than 40% of the market share and ranked first in the mobile phone industry. Chairman Mark, Google's smartphone will be on the market very close to ours. Do you think we should go a few days earlier to grab some market share? A Nokia female executive in formal attire asked at the table during the company meeting. Since both companies are making smartphones, Nokia is more wary of Google than Motorola is of Google. But it is only more, not to the extent of facing a formidable enemy. Chairman Mark did not rush to answer his subordinates' questions. Instead, he let everyone discuss and speak freely first. A few days earlier, I think it's not necessary. I think we should go on the market on the scheduled date. Otherwise, others will think that we, Nokia, are afraid of Google. A male executive spoke first. I think so too. This Mavey group is really greedy. It actually reached out to the mobile phone industry and created a global experience store. Have you heard that the experience store allows customers to try mobile phones for free? What's so good about this mobile phone? They are not afraid that customers will find defects after using it and then stop buying it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 331 Huawei's Google phone is going to be a hit. Another senior official sitting at the table was very repulsive to the Huawei group's involvement in the mobile phone industry, and he was also very disapproving of the experience store he had set up. He thought that it was fine to just sell mobile phones normally. What's the point of trying out experience? This is not cosmetics. Chairman Mark sat quietly at the table, listening to his subordinates freely expressing their opinions. Almost most of the senior officials present did not take Google's mobile phone seriously. They thought that he had just entered the industry and had come up with so many gimmicks, which was really a bit sensational and deliberately for the sake of attracting attention. The saying that competitors are enemies is true in any country. After listening to the remarks of the company's senior executives, Chairman Mark crossed his fingers and said, according to the majority opinion, there will be no change in the launch time. As for whether Google's smartphone can become a competitor to our Nokia 7650, let the market prove it. Beware of peers, and pay attention to peers, which is a homework that a company must do. It's just that Huawei Group has just entered the mobile phone industry not long ago. It hasn't even learned to walk yet, but it wants to run. This made the two giant companies feel that perhaps they were thinking too much and taking this potential competitor too seriously. 2 weeks later, 796 Google mobile experience stores of the Huawei Group opened around the world. At the same time, Nokia's Symbian system smartphone 7650 was also launched globally. It can be bought directly in major mobile phone stores. At 9:30 a.m. New York time, the Google Mobile Experience Center near Times Square opened on time in the mall. Because it was a weekday, there were many people coming and going on the street outside the mall. But few customers came to visit the mall, so let alone come to the Google Experience Center. Leader, I just went to see the Google Experience store and found that there were almost no customers inside. They were all staff members wearing uniforms and working there. At around 10 AM, Nokia employees and Motorola sent people to see the Google Experience store. Because the two companies are in different locations, the employees sent drove to experience it. However, the scene they saw was empty. No customers were willing to go in and experience it, just because it was a new thing. And the timing is wrong. Have you seen what Google's mobile phone looks like? Is it really a whole screen without even a dial button? Nokia and Motorola executives asked their employees curiously, wanting to know what kind of mobile phone Google designed. It seems so, because there are all staff inside, so I took a look outside the store. Their mobile phones have, black, white, and grey, 3 colors to choose from. Oh, by the way, their mobile phones are very expensive, and they sell them for $550. The company employees who went to inquire about it reported to their bosses with some hesitation. $550 a unit? Is this robbery? Or do you think consumers are fools? The executives of the two companies sneered at Google's high price. It's the same mobile phone, but Motorola only sells it for about $200. As for Nokia's newly launched 7650, it is about $280. They don't dare to sell it as outrageously as Google. In fact, the executives of the two companies don't know. The company employees they sent had all been to the Experience store and used Google's smartphone. Then how to say it? From their professional perspective on the mobile phone industry, this first generation smartphone from Google is likely to be a hit. The novel and convenient operation, the ultra high performance and multifunctional development are just like a handheld computer. If it weren't for the supervision of the superiors, they would have wanted to experience it for dozens of minutes in the store. The reason why they didn't dare to say it so clearly was because they stood on the side of Motorola and Nokia. It was impossible for them to be stupid enough to speak for their competitors, so they chose some other facts to report to the superiors. For example, there were really not many customers in the Google Experience store at this time. But, after trying the phone, they all had the urge to buy a Google phone and throw away Nokia and Motorola. Not to mention some other consumers. What choice they would make at that time? Ahem. Yes, $550 is too expensive, the employee said along with the leader's words. In fact, what he really wanted to say was that it would be better if the phone could be cheaper. If the price was reduced to about $400, he would definitely spend money to buy it. Just like that, time went by in a blink of an eye, and it was noon. The executives of Motorola and Nokia, who were responsible for gathering intelligence, came to the president's office to report and said, "Chairman, I have sent people to find out clearly that there are no customers in Google's Experience store, and their mobile phones are very expensive, and they cost $550 each. They are not made of gold, so they are so expensive. Do you think they are robbing money?" The executives of the two companies spoke ill of Google phones to their own company bosses. However, they did not see that at this time. The expression on their own bosses' faces was slightly gloomy, even bored. Okay, don't say it. What you said was 2 hours ago. Now the Experience store in Times Square, New York, people have lined up on the street. Davis, president of Motorola, and Mark, chairman of Nokia, received photos and videos from journalists. That scene was so hot. Those who didn't know would think that they were giving away mobile phones instead of selling them. Everyone was robbing. Even some middle-class customers bought several phones at once, saying they were going to give them to their friends. After all, they had never seen such a high performance, such a shocking mobile phone. After listening to the words of their own company's boss, the two executives of Nokia and Motorola were stunned in the office on the spot. Their entire expressions were confused. A mobile phone that costs $550 has no button dialing, but it can still sell so well. How is this going on? Since no one has a Google phone in their hands, so it is completely unclear why it is so popular. But looking at the market, with such a hot response, even people who don't use mobile phones have to know the name of Google phone. On the day of the opening of 796 Experience stores around the world, the inventory of nearly 150 stores was sold out. This forced the store employees to urgently adjust the goods. Transfer the inventory of other stores first. Chapter 332. Powerful Google phones, crushing Nokia and Motorola. On the day of the opening of the 796 experience stores around the world, the stocks of nearly 150 stores were sold out. This forced the store staff to urgently adjust the stock. The stocks of other stores were transferred first. After all, the stores were almost trampled by consumers, and many people came with money to buy mobile phones. It was really like a scramble. Even because of the scarcity of Google phones, the price of online scalpers exceeded $750. If this trend continues, it is probably no problem to double. The key is that there are still people willing to trade and spend money to buy. It can be seen how much the smartphone invested and developed by Mavey has subverted the market. A day later, Nokia and Motorola executives finally found someone to go to other cities to buy 2 Google smartphones. Then at the meeting, they analyzed and studied for everyone why it was so popular. As soon as it was launched, the mobile phone engineers of the two companies stayed up all night to study Google's mobile phone and then summarized its characteristics at the meeting. Everyone, you can see that this black mobile phone in my hand is the first generation of Google smartphone. It is much thinner than other mobile phones on the market, and it does not have 18 buttons because it is a touch screen. It uses touch technology. As soon as the engineer said touch technology, the senior executives sitting at the conference table showed a look of surprise. No wonder it has no buttons. It turns out to be a touch screen. What about the operation and performance? What is the difference with Nokia 7650? The one just asked. Since the two mobile phones are both smartphones, it is easy to be compared with each other. The difference, to be honest, it's quite big. The mobile phone engineer said with some hesitation. Compared with Nokia 7650, this dumb phone with only 8 meters memory capacity and only 4 meters available memory, Google's first generation of smartphones, in terms of performance and all aspects, simply beat Nokia 7650. Because its memory has 2 versions, 2GB and 4GB. The 2GB version is priced at $550, while the 4GB version is priced at $688. The reason why it is not 4GB or 8GB is that the microprocessor technology in 2002 was not particularly mature. In terms of technology, the memory chip can only be made into 4GB. The memory capacity of this smartphone from Google is 300 to 500 times that of Nokia. Users can store their favorite songs, videos, or photos in the phone. It is almost like a handheld computer that can make calls. The more the mobile phone engineers of the two companies study the Google phone, the more they find that its design and performance can be described as subversive and unparalleled. They have just finished the initial introduction, and senior officials from Nokia and Motorola, as well as the two presidents Davis and Mark. I was immediately shocked by the powerful memory and functions of Google's mobile phone. In addition to the functions similar to a handheld computer, you can see that there are 2 round holes on the back and front of this phone that look like cameras. This is the camera function it covers. It allows users to take photos and videos anytime, anywhere. In other words, Google's first generation of smartphones is a super smartphone that integrates calls, cameras, powerful storage, and software operation. It completely subverts people's traditional concept of mobile phones. Listening to the explanation of the mobile phone engineer, the senior officials of Nokia and Motorola finally knew where they lost this time. They also knew why Google dared to price the phone so expensively, 4GB of memory. This is really awesome. Let me ask you a question. If our company wants to develop a smartphone like Google, how long will it take? Davis, the president of Motorola, asked his subordinates with a serious expression. They didn't pay enough attention before, so now they are caught off guard by Google. If the gap gradually widens, I believe that within a few years, the entire Motorola empire will be dragged down by Google. This situation will also happen to Nokia. It's just a matter of time. In terms of time, since we started too late, it may take at least 3 years to explore and develop. The mobile phone engineer answered helplessly. Mavey Group has secretly developed advanced smartphones, and his company is still asking at the meeting how long it will take to catch up now. You know, 3 years later, they developed the first smartphone. I'm afraid Google has already developed the second or even third generation of mobile phones. This gap is like a chasm, which is completely due to strategic development. To put it bluntly, the presidents of the two companies failed to grasp the industry trends. As a result, they are 3 steps behind others. How can they catch up? It will take 3 years. The president of Motorola pondered at the conference table. For the digital industry, let alone 3 years, even if it only takes 1 year or even half a year, these digital products on the market may undergo huge changes. This is equivalent to asking for the life of Motorola. Now there are only 2 choices in front of him. One is to imitate Google and develop Motorola's smartphone as soon as possible. But we must avoid duplicating competition with Google phones. For example, if it is aimed at the high-end market, then Motorola will reduce costs and go the low-end route. But this is very difficult. As for the other way, it is to go its own way and develop with all the existing resources. For example, promotion, price war, and service quality, in order to recover some of the disadvantages in mobile phone performance. Both ways are difficult to take and can be said to be super difficult. Just when Motorola and Nokia were struggling like this, Mawei, the instigator, had just woken up from bed lazily. He listened to the report from the president of Google on the news that Google phones were very popular yesterday. Mawei has experienced many things that are extremely surprising to others, but expected to himself. His mind is also much calmer, and he will not be too complacent or startled. Chairman Mawei, I have very good news for you. As of yesterday morning, our Google smartphones have sold 19,000 units worldwide. Many stores were out of stock on the same day, and the warehouse was unable to supply the units in time. If things continue at this pace, I'm afraid the 300,000 phones we've prepared will be sold out in less than 3 weeks. Google President Sergey did not expect the phones to sell so well. Chapter 333, Mawei's Hardcore Strategy, the Google phone that was snapped up. He originally estimated that if the 796 experience stores could sell 8,000 units on the same day, it would be very good. However, the current number is more than 100% more. This result directly affects the stock price of his Google company. As soon as the market opened this morning, it opened high and continued to rise. The market popularity is just like the 796 experience stores, which are extremely popular. Sell out when they are sold out. Don't be too anxious to restock. By the way, how are the subsequent software of the Android system being developed? For example, instant messaging tools, reading apps, payment software, etc. Mawei asked the president of Google in a faint voice. The launch of the first generation of smartphones is just one of his plans. In addition to selling mobile phones, the app software is an important part of the company's continued profitability. After all, buying a mobile phone is just a one-time consumption. Even if it needs to be replaced after 2 years, the consumption frequency is too low. If the company only relies on selling mobile phones to make profits, it is really a misstep. Little do people know that the user's one-time recharge amount and game consumption may be enough to change several mobile phones. If you can extract 30% of it as profit, it will definitely be a very pleasant thing. That is why Apple can surpass Motorola and Nokia and become a super company with a market value of over 1 trillion. Chairman Mawei, the software development related to the Android system is expected to appear in the Android store within a month for users to download or purchase. The president of Google said respectfully on the phone. For the boss Mawei's business strategy, President Sergey and a group of senior executives have long admired it to the point of having no other ideas. Only reverence and admiration are left. I really don't know what the chairman thinks in his mind every day. Why can there always be so many creative ideas like a stroke of genius? It's simply terrible. Okay, the hardware and software aspects of smartphones are both key and indispensable. Don't make any mistakes, Mawei said to Sergey simply and clearly. Originally, he was planning to hold a Google mobile phone conference. But considering that he would show up in public, many people would know his face and identity. In this way, even if he wears a mask and sunglasses in the future, he will be easily recognized. It is impossible to live the free and easy life of an invisible rich man. So after comprehensive consideration, Mavey decided not to hold a new product launch conference for the time being. Let the market test directly. That is the hardcore. Understood. Chairman Mavey, please rest assured, we will do all this. The president of Google promised on the phone. Many friends around him have been asking him if he regretted selling Google to Mavey Group for $600,000. Almost everyone thinks that if Shegear insists, there may be no Mavey Group. However, whenever someone asks this, Shegear always shakes his head disapprovingly, because he knows that if he rejected Mavey at the beginning, I'm afraid that Google would have been perfectly eliminated by another search engine created by Mavey. After all, in the more than 2 years of following Mavey, Shegear knows how terrible his boss is. There has been almost no wrong decision, and every step is taken quite perfectly. In just 2 weeks, 796 Google mobile experience stores around the world sold 300,000 mobile phones. Nokia's 7650, with the efforts of more than 3,000 stores and hundreds of thousands of dealers around the world, only sold more than 90,000 units. Mavey's connections in China allowed this generation of smartphones to quickly enter the domestic market. Many petty bourgeoisie and middle class people feel fashionable and very pretentious because they can own a Google phone. Such a desperate data comparison made all major media and websites that pay attention to the mobile phone industry rush to report on this matter. Global Times. Google, a subsidiary of Mavey Group, leads the new trend of mobile phones around the world. The newly launched first generation of Google smartphones has received rave reviews. It can be regarded as a product that subverts the mobile phone industry. People's Daily. Nokia 7650 sales have encountered a cold reception. The new generation of flagship phones that were originally favored by the outside world has been replaced by Google smartphones. According to experts, the performance of Google smartphones is several times better than that of Nokia. Now Google phones are out of stock worldwide. Its dedicated experience stores have long been overcrowded. The reports on Google smartphones can be described as overwhelming. Of course, this is due to the influence of Mavey Group and its channels in the media. There are also those who already have Google phones and who are crazy about recommending them to friends and colleagues and showing off their features all day long. For example, the front camera on the phone can be used to take selfies. This feature has completely opened up a selfie era for women. Starbucks, movie theaters, high-end restaurants, any woman holding a Google phone will show off by taking a selfie. They are afraid that others will not know that they have bought a Google phone. In addition to these phenomena, some netizens have also created a Google phone forum on the internet. Friends who have bought a phone or want to buy one can exchange their experiences in the forum. I'm so angry. My friend queued up overnight and bought a Google phone with 4GB memory. I bought a spot from a scalper, but when it was my turn, it was sold out. I spent 1,000 yuan on the scalper's spot. I was so angry that I vomited blood on the spot. The key is that my friend knew the news and showed me the features of the Google phone all day long. Who in the forum has extra phones? I'll buy it at a high price. Scalpers are everywhere where there is demand. Not only queues, but they can be asked to serve many things. As soon as this unlucky netizen posted his post, he received several replies. Haha, I sympathize with your situation, but the Google phone has now been hyped up to 8,800 yuan. The resale price on Taobao changes every few hours. My friend was lucky and bought it when it just opened. He spent more than 5,000 yuan and felt very distressed at the time. But now the price is so high, he really thinks he made the right purchase. Discussions about Google phones were everywhere in the streets and alleys. However, what they said was nothing more than the high price, powerful phone functions, awesome hardware facilities, good-looking appearance, and supply shortages. The most important point, however, was not discussed by many people. That is, the Android store in Google phones will launch an instant messaging software called WeChat Chat to users in a week. This software is only available in the Android store, so those who didn't buy the phone are not aware of it for the time being. Chapter 334. Mavey's WeChat Plus privileges. Victoria's Secret fashion show begins. Mavey's brick phone was finally replaced with a smartphone he invested in. And because of his special identity, this Google phone is not black, white, or grey. It is a special edition in gold, and there is only one in the world. This special edition phone is not only cool in appearance, its hidden privileges can make others envious. That is, if you use it to log into WeChat, Mawei's information in the background of the circle of friends will show his exclusive signature, Taiwanese Gold Plus exclusive customized edition. This signature cannot be modified by the user himself. It must be modified in the system by the manufacturer, that is, Google. When the Android store solemnly recommended WeChat chat to 300,000 mobile phone users, many people registered an account with a try it attitude. Then they found that this chat software is really fun. Not only can you send messages and even voice messages to friends you know on your phone without charging any SMS fees, call fees. Moreover, some functions in the software, such as people nearby, shake, and the circle of friends they posted, let users feel that communication software can also be used to chat like this. Why are there these words to Heojin Plus exclusive customized edition under the messages you sent in your circle of friends? But mine doesn't have them. Sisters Anfilia and Bilavina naturally have smartphones developed by Mawei, and the three of them added each other as WeChat friends and opened a chat group. This way, they don't have to chat in text messages all the time. After all, with those brick-like mobile phones on the market, you have to flip through text messages one by one, and there is an upper limit to the storage of messages. When a certain number is reached, they have to be deleted. It is not as convenient as WeChat. You can see it directly in the chat box and even search it. The storage capacity of information is also super huge. Underage children, don't play WeChat all the time. You will learn bad things. Mawei did not directly answer the questions of sisters Anfilia and Bilavina. He couldn't say some pretentious words. It's just playing WeChat. How can you learn bad things? You just don't want to say it, right? Sister Anfilia asked Mawei. That's right. I think someone just doesn't want to say it clearly. As the chairman of his group, he must have abused his power and forced his employees to get privileges. His sister Bellavina also helped and joked in the chat group. They didn't know that in the previous life, when WeChat was first released, it was hailed as a one-night stand tool. Many men and women, out of curiosity about new things, got to know each other through people nearby. Then, as they chatted, they developed into a *** relationship. Or some people simply use the name of dating to do one-night stands. Anyway, everyone met online and didn't know each other. Mawei was too lazy to explain anything to the two little girls. After all, due to their identities and the revengeful mentality of women, he didn't want to cause too much trouble. So Mawei took out another mobile phone and posted the photo of his Gold Plus in the chat group. See for yourself, this is the reason. After Mawei posted the picture, he continued to deal with his career. For example, in 2 weeks, Victoria's Secret fashion show will start public pre-sale. The ticket price and the number of people will be announced at that time. I believe that once the pre-sale starts, the wealthy people in the whole country will rush to watch. If nothing else, it is because this world-famous Victoria's Secret show is held in China for the first time in history. Even if it is just for fun, you have to spend money to watch it. I just don't know how much the ticket will cost. Just as Mawei was looking at the Victoria's Secret show seating arrangement sent by his subordinates, his sister Bellavina was so envious that she started to swipe the screen in the WeChat chat group. Wow. Your phone is actually gold? It's so beautiful. I want it too. Wow. Mawei, you are a bad person. You deliberately sent this picture to me. Now I don't even have the heart to do my homework. Mawei pretended to be dead and lurked in the chat group. Now his mind is mainly on the upcoming Victoria's Secret show. According to the schedule, the Victoria's Secret models have already arrived in Shanghai at this time, and they are ready to start walking the show and rehearsing on the spot. All relevant preparations are ready, only the ticket price and quantity are still confidential. Only on the day of pre-sale will it be announced to the public. At that time, it is estimated that it will be shocking again. Because according to someone's personality, he has never done mediocre things. 2 weeks later, the pre-sale website of the Victoria's Secret show was opened on time. Then those media reporters and spectators who came to learn about it at the first time After seeing the ticket prices on the website, almost everyone stared at the computer screen in front of them with an unbelievable look. Am I seeing it right? Victoria's Secret show tickets, 800,000 yuan per ticket? Only 35 seats are sold in total? Some spectators who came after hearing the news were scared to urinate in front of the computer by Ma Wen's high price. Spending 800,000 yuan to buy a show ticket, how expensive is this? After watching a show, it is equivalent to losing a Mercedes-Benz. With this money, you can enjoy it for several years to support models. However, just when these spectators were shocked by the price of the Victoria's Secret show, I saw the number 35 representing 35 seats on the website suddenly reduced to 33. This means that 2 tickets were bought during this period of time. Damn. Such expensive tickets are actually bought. I think I'd better stay in the video and watch. The world of the rich is incomprehensible. The spectators can't imagine what kind of willfulness can make this group of crazy rich people buy a sky-high ticket of 800,000 yuan. It's as if they can sleep with the young models inside after buying the tickets. In fact, what they don't know is that the rich spend money only based on their mood. As for other issues such as cost effectiveness, whether it is cost effective and whether it is necessary to buy, they are not within their consideration. It's like if a person has 1000 yuan in his hand, he won't worry about how to spend 1 yuan. But if he only has 1 yuan in his hand, it will be a completely different situation. 35 sky-high tickets for the China Victoria's Secret show were bought by unknown rich people from all over the country in just one afternoon. Many people are still complaining that there are too few places. They didn't get any. I don't know when the next Victoria's Secret fashion show will come to China. It's a pity to miss this rare opportunity to experience it. Chapter 335, Victoria's Secret Fashion Show, the show of the rich. 35 I will send someone over in 2 days. The sky-high priced tickets were sold out in almost 5 days. The domestic tycoons who bought the tickets did not think the ticket price was expensive, because there were only 35 seats in the huge venue. This meant that every seat was VIP level and had an excellent viewing angle. On the contrary, if the organizers had made 300 to 500 seats, this pot of rich people would have squeezed in like dumplings. It would have been absolutely embarrassing. In the previous Victoria's Secret show, because there were too many seats and the security check was too complicated, the rich people who bought the tickets had to squeeze in front of the security gate like queuing up to buy train tickets, waiting for security check. The scene can be described as horrible. People who don't know their identities would never imagine how much money these people who were blocked in front of the security gate had in their pockets. Chairman Mavey, the rehearsal for the Victoria's Secret show has ended. In 8 days, the Victoria's Secret models will be on stage. When will you come to inspect the work? As the chairman of the organizer, Mavey naturally needs to inspect such a large event, or send someone to inspect it. In case something is not done well, it will affect the reputation of his Mavey group. I will send someone over in 2 days. Also, are the communication equipment ready? I need smooth signals throughout the whole process. Mavey said lightly on the phone. With his identity and status, the phone is the most commonly used device. The signal equipment has been prepared. Chairman Mavey, please rest assured. The person in charge of the Victoria's Secret show venue reported to Mavey. In fact, there was one thing he didn't dare to ask, that is, why did the signal equipment need to be used specifically for the entire show? Is it going to be a TV live broadcast? The person in charge guessed correctly that Mavey was going to do a Victoria's Secret show live broadcast. It's just that it was not in cooperation with the TV station, but his guest live broadcast. Since someone started the live broadcast era, the original joint brick video and show detective video have been gradually marginalized in this era. The traffic of their websites is almost declining every day, and the user stickiness is not as high as that of Mavey's guest video. After all, the new barrage function makes many netizens feel very interesting when watching videos. Especially those brilliant complaints or high energy warnings in horror movies. Netizens will feel that sometimes the barrage is better than the video. Every one of them is a talent. Okay, I know. Mavey nodded and said. His guest live broadcast account has not been logged in for a long time. I don't know where it ranks on the rich list. Many fans who follow him, as well as netizens, often send private messages to his account, asking Mavey what happened recently, why he hasn't been online, and when he will start Krypton Gold Live broadcast again. In addition to the concern of fans, some black fans or websites began to spread rumors about Mavey Hang, the account used by Mavey, because of embezzling public funds, or using ill-gotten money to reward female anchors, recharging games to open Krypton Gold Live broadcasts. As a result, he was arrested by the police, and has not been online so far. I have to say, that the imagination of black fans is really good. The embezzlement of public funds to play games and reward female anchors is indeed well founded, which makes many people believe it. When Mavey saw this web news, he was curious and wanted to see who was so obsessed with female live broadcasts and embezzled public funds to play Krypton Gold Live broadcasts. Is it so brainless? However, when he turned down the news, the big words Mavey Hang of the V-Guest Tycoon suddenly caught his eyes. He felt very amused. 2 weeks later, it was the day for the Victoria's Secret fashion show to officially start. As the organizer, Mavey would naturally attend, and the seat he was assigned was the best position in the middle of the audience. There you can see the Victoria's Secret models with sweet smiles and plump figures walking towards you rhythmically. When the model turns around, you can see her sexy back and plump buttocks. You should know that Victoria's Secret models are carefully selected. Not only do they need perfect body proportions and beautiful faces, but they also have strict standards for their measurements. In the previous Victoria's Secret model selection, Mavey mainly contacted domestic models. As for sexy beauties from all over the world, he has not yet contacted them. According to convention, there will be a special Victoria's Secret baby party after the Victoria's Secret show. Mavey was also invited to this party. I believe the scene at that time will be extremely colorful. It is definitely a place that every man yearns for. At 7 o'clock on Wednesday night, 35 wealthy people from all over the country gathered, wearing their best formal clothes. With the sky-high tickets they bought, they waited in front of the Victoria's Secret Club one by one to pass the security check and enter. The weather in Shanghai in August is still very hot. Even at night, it is hot and sweaty. These wealthy people know that all the people who come to see the Victoria's Secret show are rich people like them, so they will not look shabby when they go out. The local tycoons who live in Shanghai or nearby cities will drive their most expensive luxury cars to show off. And those wealthy people who come from afar, naturally, can't drive too good cars, but they will pay more attention to dressing up. For example, Patek Philippe watches worth millions, Versace leather shoes worth tens of thousands of yuan a pair. The purpose is not to be outdone and lose the limelight. Just as these 35 wealthy people were waiting for security checks at the entrance of the venue. At this time, an ordinary black Mercedes-Benz car stopped steadily in front of the gate. It also stopped in front of the more than 30 wealthy people waiting in line. The appearance of the Mercedes-Benz did not cause much reaction from the crowd. After all, this entry-level ordinary luxury car is not as expensive as a ticket in their hands. So many people chose to ignore it and not pay much attention to it. But when the door of the Mercedes-Benz opened, a white foreigner in ordinary clothes and sunglasses walked to the door of the venue in the middle of the night. The more than 30 domestic wealthy people who had originally ignored him suddenly found that the foreigner, under the attentive reception of the person in charge of the venue, actually entered the venue directly through a special channel. There was no need to queue up for ticket inspection and security checks like them. That foreigner? Who is he? He doesn't look rich. He only drives a Mercedes-Benz 320. None of his clothes are famous brands, not to mention watches and sunglasses. A wealthy man wearing expensive clothes communicated with his friends in confusion. Chapter 336 Victoria's Secret fashion show begins. Mavey speaks Chinese. I'm not sure, maybe there is some connection. By the way, I heard that the chairman of the Mavey group is a very young white guy. So could the one who just went in be him? The companion was quite perceptive and quickly guessed who the real owner was. That's right, it was Mavey who came to Shanghai from Russia on a special plane. Now he no longer needs too many material possessions to prove and show himself. On the contrary, the privileges of various things are what distinguish him from other rich people. Chairman Maweli, the camera position for live broadcast is ready. The signal is unimpeded. When the Victoria's Secret show starts later, we will arrange special personnel to help you take care of everything. The general manager of the Victoria's Secret show said to Maweli attentively while leading him into the hall. In such an occasion, Maweli is definitely not suitable to stand in front of the camera, live broadcast, and comment on the scene like those female anchors. That would be too cheap and embarrassing. All he has to do is sit quietly in his seat and watch the entire Victoria's Secret show. As for the live shooting, there are special venue staff who will assist V and open the relevant screens. When Maweli was arranged by the person in charge, he sat in the best position in the venue. The live camera lens not far from him was also turned on by the staff. At the same time, on the homepage of V, an account named Ma created a Victoria's Secret live showroom. As soon as the room appeared, tens of thousands of netizens who had been waiting in front of their computers through the website in advance, all swarmed into the room created by Ma. Wow. Tycoon, you finally showed up. I finally waited for you. Fortunately I didn't give up. A loyal fan of Maweli immediately recognized his ID. The Victoria's Secret show is being broadcasted in this room, right? I thought it was an official event, but it looks like it was created by one person. V guessed. And Victoria's Secret? This anchor is so awesome. May I ask who he is? It seems to be the real Victoria's Secret show. At first, when I saw the room created by an individual, I thought it was deliberately created to attract attention. Great. This is the first time I watched a Victoria's Secret show live online, thanks to the anchor. Maweli didn't know about the above comments. Even his Mali Hang account was also a V-guest website, which broadcasted the entire show in his name. There is actually no necessary reason for doing this. It's just a way to please. Anyway, the big boss happened to have an unused live broadcast account. And some time ago, someone on the internet slandered and defamed the account, saying that the owner of the account was taken away by the police for embezzling public funds and rewarding female anchors. So, the V-guest executives suddenly had an idea to create this live broadcast room in the name of the big boss. By the way, it can also help him dispel those rumors. After all, maybe one day, the boss will log into his account again and do a Krypton Gold live broadcast or something. When he suddenly finds that the number of fans has soared and the negative rumors have disappeared, he should be in a good mood. I have to say that being a boss is a very pleasant thing. Many problems do not need to be dealt with by oneself, and some people actively and enthusiastically help to bear them. Maweli's Victoria's Secret show live broadcast room was opened for less than 5 minutes, and the number of online users exceeded 30,000. As a result, the number of his fans has soared by more than 1,000. Among them, there are many people who give him whirlwind rocket launchers, and the price of 12 rounds is $35. Maweli, who didn't know that netizens were crazy about posting barrages, sat patiently in the audience. At this time, the 35 domestic tycoons who had been queuing outside the door before also passed the security check and entered the venue. Almost as soon as they appeared, they cast their eyes on the best position in the center of the venue, that is, Maweli's side. Look at someone sitting steadily in a special seat. Combined with his appearance, his calm expression, and the temperament that emanates faintly. Even if everyone used their toes to think, they could guess who the young foreigner wearing sunglasses was. That was Maweli, the chairman of Mavey Group, who was worth hundreds of billions of dollars. That's the chairman of Maweli Group. He's so young. A domestic tycoon over 40 envied Maweli very much, who was both young and prestigious. A life like this is like a cheat, which makes people unable to catch up. Once people reach that level, they don't care much about what car they drive or what clothes they wear. A fashionable rich second generation thought silently in his heart. Compared with his own bright clothes and famous brand watches, someone's style of not showing off, but having privileges wherever he goes, made him realize that this was the real power. 10 minutes later, when 35 tycoons took their seats one by one, the Victoria's Secret show was also officially staged under the hostess. Good evening, audience. Welcome to the China Victoria's Secret fashion show, jointly organized by Mavey Group and Victoria's Secret. This is also the first time that this level of underwear show is held in our country. First of all, I have the honor to introduce to you the handsome Russian man sitting opposite me. He is the chairman of Mavey Group, Mr. Maweli. Let us give a warm applause and invite Mr. Maweli to say a few words for this China Victoria's Secret fashion show. The well-known female host in an evening dress smiled at Maweli while standing on the stage. At the same time, the staff on the sidelines had also prepared the microphone and then handed it to Maweli carefully. The focus of the whole audience was once again on someone. This made Maweli, who got the microphone, have to think of a few words. But this time, he didn't speak Russian or English, but very standard ordinary English. The rich people, staff, and female host standing in front of the stage were surprised. I wondered when the foreigners' Chinese became more standard than some people around them. I just learned Chinese recently, so I can really speak a few simple sentences. If a model accidentally falls on the stage later, I hope everyone will give her encouraging applause. Thank you. It feels better than ever to speak your mother tongue in public. Before, Maweli couldn't even sing Chinese songs at home when taking a bath. This feeling can only be understood by those who have experienced it. As soon as Maweli finished speaking, everyone present showed a surprised expression, as if the sun was rising from the west. It felt that the foreigner in front of them had become friendly, not as far away as before. Chapter 337 Victoria's Secret Party, a place men long for. But there was no way to feel uncomfortable. Who told them not to be there? Even if they had the opportunity to go there, they could not attend the exclusive Victoria's Secret party like Maweli. 30 minutes later, when Maweli was led by the female manager of Victoria's Secret, he came to the decorated banquet hall. He saw that the Victoria's Secret models had changed into their own evening dresses and were laughing and joking in the banquet hall, listening to music, enjoying fine wine, food, and chatting and laughing. The evening dresses of each model have their own characteristics. Some are backless, while others are deep V-hip dresses. The scene can be said to be 100 flowers blooming, which makes people a little dazzled. Mr. Maweli, I wish you a good night. The female manager said this to Maweli with a smile, and then picked up 2 glasses of red wine on the waiter's tray and handed them to Maweli. Cheers. The two clinked their glasses and then raised their heads and drank them all. Work is work, and relaxation is relaxation. I have to say that foreigners do a good job in this regard. Girls, let me introduce you. This is Mr. Maweli, the chairman of Mavey Group. The 3 jewelry underwear on the catwalk today were made by Mr. Maweli. After drinking, the female manager introduced him to the Victoria's Secret models. In fact, she didn't need to introduce him specifically. The Victoria's Secret models present had already known the man sitting in the best position in the venue through various channels. He was the famous chairman of the Mavey Group. Young and promising, worth hundreds of billions, more than a diamond bachelor. Hello, Mr. Maweli, nice to meet you. A Victoria's Secret model wearing a black low-cut evening dress came forward to greet Maweli with a beautiful smile. It is an honor for any woman to meet a man like him. Mr. Maweli, you are really young, and you are also very handsome. Almost as soon as Maweli showed his face, the group of Victoria's Secret models around him gathered around with laughter. These beautiful beauties who fascinated thousands of people, if taken out alone, are very lethal. Now, they are all gathered around Maweli, which is simply the rhythm of reaching the peak of life. No matter which direction Maweli looks, the picture that appears in front of him is always the beautiful faces of Victoria's Secret models, and their tall and charming postures. Ahem. Thank you all for your efforts in the Victoria's Secret show in China. Relax tonight. With so many beauties surrounding him, Maweli had to say a few words casually. When he was talking, almost every Victoria's Secret beauty looked at Maweli with an admiring and worshipful look. This feeling of being seriously watched and admired by beautiful women made someone feel a little floating. But it is also true that a white man who is rich, handsome, and in good shape is also very young and promising, and has created countless eye-catching careers. This kind of legendary man, as long as the woman's sexual orientation is not a problem, the possibility of not liking him is really small. After Mawey finished speaking, the beauties in the venue naturally responded with warm cheers, and even drank the wine immediately, with the intention of not going home until they were drunk. Mr. Mawey, I have a lot of questions for you. I wonder if you can answer them? At this time, a young model with long flowing hair and wearing a pink evening dress asked Mawey curiously. She has black and shiny hair, is of Asian descent, and has a very high appearance. No problem, please ask. Although Mawey has a prominent status, he will not look down on others without quality. He will not lose his politeness and demeanor. Can you tell us how you do all this? I'm really curious about this. This question she asked is also what her companions around her want to know. For example, Google, V-Guest Video, Marvel Pictures, and the recent Google mobile phone. How did Mawey achieve these amazing feats? After all, most successful people have outstanding performance in one or two fields at most. And Mawey is simply an all-rounder, as if there is nothing in the world that he can't do. This question is a long story. I remember that at the beginning, I only had a few $dozen in my pocket. My monthly salary was less than $400. I had to pay for rent, water, and electricity, and daily food expenses. I could only save $80 a month. I persisted for a year and saved nearly $1,000. Then, I took the $375 million left by my parents and invested in a business and developed it step by step to the present. Mawey recalled what happened at the beginning and answered. What he said was all true. It's just that one happened before Rebirth and the other happened after Rebirth. The details of Rebirth cannot be said. So Mawey changed his way. As soon as the voice fell, the Victoria's Secret model standing in front of him was stunned. Saved $1,000 a year, and then used the $375 million left by my parents to invest this. Almost all the girls standing around were a little dizzy by Mawey's words. They originally thought that this was a very inspiring story, where the protagonist relied on a few $dozen in his pocket to develop to the current scale of $100 billion US. Such a wonderful story can be adapted and made into a movie. However, they never expected that Mawey's story would have such a twist and turn, and finally have such an ending. Haha. Mr. Mawey, you are really humorous. I think I understand what you said. It is a satire on reality, right? The two Victoria's Secret babies asked Mawey with a sweet smile, holding red wine in their hands. If a person reaches a certain height, even if he talks nonsense casually, there will still be many people who will flatter him. After hearing this, Mawey showed a non-committal expression. He has been surrounded by women for more than 10 minutes during the entire Victoria's Secret party. The key is that the models have no intention of leaving. He wants to find a place to sit for a while and have a drink or something. At this time, a graceful, blonde, blue-eyed American model quietly came to him and asked, "Mr. Mawey, I want to ask you, after the party is over, do you want to join us for another celebration party?" The Victoria's Secret model boldly and softly asked Mawey with a smile. After she asked, there was a mysterious smile on her face. Another party? Mawey looked at the blonde model in front of him. Compared with other girls, she had a more enchanting feeling. It was obvious at a glance that she was not a serious girl. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 338 Blindfold and catch a beauty and let her hehehe. We'll see what happens then. Mawey didn't agree to the other party immediately because he could feel that the so-called other party might be more fun than the current one. Since his rebirth, Mawey's cock has not rested much, although Russian men are energetic and strong. But the most feared thing about grinding a piece of iron into a needle is endless squandering. However, nothing in the world can escape the law of true fragrance. Mawey will see what happens first. As the scene in front of him changed, he brought dozens of Victoria's Secret models from various countries to the Aston #1 mansion in Lujiazou, Pudong. There is a mansion there that he uses specifically for parties. The decoration standard is no less than that of a 6-star hotel, which is just right for a group of young people to mess around together on this wonderful night. Mr. Mawei, I heard that this group of China's first riverside luxury houses are all yours? And up to now, there has been no transaction? Dozens of Victoria's Secret babies, sitting in the extended Lincoln car, listening to music and sipping champagne, asked Mawei curiously. I guess so. So no matter how loud you make noise at night, you won't disturb others. And you don't have to worry about others disturbing the party, Mawei said with a faint smile. This is the advantage of being rich. There is nothing you can't do. Originally, these Victoria's Secret models were considering going to the bar or booking a hotel suite to have some fun. After all, the Victoria's Secret party is too formal and it is not convenient to have too much fun. However, the bar is too mixed and there are all kinds of people there. As for the hotel suite, it is very likely to be complained because it disturbs the next room. It is definitely not fun. So a group of playful young models are very glad that Mawei finally agreed to bring them to play together. Otherwise, tonight, we will lose a lot of fun. Wow, Mr. Mawei, your house is so luxurious. Is this really just a place for you to have parties? It's really great. Can I take a look around? As soon as the models walked into Mawei's mansion, they were fascinated by the exquisite decoration and exquisite design. Sure, this place belongs to you tonight, Mawei replied with a smile. In fact, he uses this party mansion less than once a year. But every 2 weeks, servants will come to clean and keep the house clean and tidy. Just waiting for the owner of the house to visit one day. It's all a waste of money. After listening to Mawei's words, the young models showed happy expressions and took off their high heels, put on a variety of comfortable and clean cotton slippers, and then visited Mawei's mansion in 2s and 3s. The more they visited, the more they found that the life of rich people was really comfortable. A house specially used for parties. The key is that people don't usually go there, and they come a few times a year. It is decorated so luxuriously, and there is no dust in the whole place. How much money will it cost for maintenance alone in a year? When all the young Victoria's Secret models visited Mawei's mansion with appreciation, the fine wine and food prepared by his subordinates were also in place. Compared with the food and wine at the Victoria's Secret party, it is obvious that Mawei's is more advanced. The red wine used is Lafite and Roman Contini, and the champagne is the French Dom de Champagne. As for the food, it is all made on the spot by a French chef in a special kitchen next door. This way, it will not disturb the party, and the food can be delivered to the table on time. The selection of food is also fresh ingredients just airlifted in at night, which is several times better than those sold in high-end restaurants outside. Mr. Mawei, thank you so much for your preparations. These are really great. I think I have fallen in love with this place. The hot and elegant Victoria's Secret models praised Mawei's preparations. The key is that everything in front of them was done by someone casually, so the beauties felt their incomparable charm. The two most fatal temptations for women are delicious food and the wonderful feeling between men and women. Now the food is so good that it is impeccable. As for the things between men and women, after a group of beauties enjoyed the food, the topic and attention naturally shifted to this. Mr. Mawei, do you want to play a game with us? The young American model who invited Mawei to the party before suddenly proposed to Mawei in order to liven up the atmosphere. What game? Do I have to participate? Compared to playing games, Mawei prefers to sit quietly aside and watch the beautiful women in front of him laughing at home. This makes him feel like he has a room full of top-notch beauties. Of course you have to participate in the game because it is prepared for you, the blonde Victoria's Secret model said with a smile. She took out a silk scarf from her bag. Then she motioned Mawei to cover her eyes. Okay, now the scope can only be in this living room. Those who escape from the living room will lose, and those who are caught will also lose. Then you have to accept the punishment. City people really know how to play. A group of beautiful women are pulling Mawei to play a blindfolded game of catching people. There are a total of 16 Victoria's Secret beauties present, and the area of the living room is about 65 square meters. There are TVs, sofas, coffee tables and other furniture inside. However, for safety reasons, items like coffee tables that are easy to knock over and trip over have all been temporarily moved out of the venue. Wait, what is the punishment for the game? This should be made clear in advance, right? Maweli has never played such an exciting game. Such a sexy scene can only be seen in the homes of ancient kings in movies. But the quality of those actresses is completely shoddy. There is no comparison with his family at all. What punishment do you want if you get caught? The model who proposed this game asked Maweli with a sly smile. As everyone got to know each other better, they talked more casually, not as polite and distant as before. If you get caught, then he, Maweli answered casually. Then the 16 young models standing in front of him showed an expression of confusion. Just he? What is that? Nothing. Since you proposed the game, you should say the punishment. Maweli didn't dare to explain in public. What he? What is it? Otherwise, others would definitely think he was a lecher. How about this for the punishment? Anyone who is caught must take off a piece of clothing from their body? A young model smiled and suggested. Chapter 339 Israel wants to buy tornado rocket launchers. Saudi Arabia is anxious. Maweli sat up from the sofa. At this time, the Victoria's Secret models in the room also woke up, washed, and prepared to have breakfast. At this time, Maweli's satellite phone suddenly rang. After he answered it, he found that it was a call from the Israeli Ministry of Defense. Hello, is this Mr. Maweli? I'm from the Israeli Ministry of Defense. We want to buy your Cyclone system and ultra-long-range rockets from you. We want about 100. What is the approximate price? Israel is a thorn in the Middle East. It doesn't get along with all Arab countries. The Middle East is really super chaotic. There are wars and deaths at every turn. There are 3 countries that need to be paid attention to. One is Saudi Arabia. The other is Israel and Iran. The relationship between these 3 countries is mutually restrictive. Israel has fought 5 wars with the Arab League. This is known as the 5 Middle East wars in history. Iran, on the other hand, has always been at odds with Saudi Arabia because of other sensitive issues such as ideology, and wants to become the boss of the Middle East. There is a hidden intention of a contest between the 2 countries. In fact, if it weren't for Saudi Arabia's weak strength, his equipment would have dominated the Middle East long ago. The price of 100 tornado rocket launchers is about $1.5 billion. Maweli said lightly on the phone. Some time ago, he promised the Prince of Dubai that he would not sell tornado rocket launchers to some special countries in the Middle East. It's just that Israel is separated from the UAE by Jordan and Saudi Arabia. So this promise is not a breach of contract. $1.5 billion? Okay, then Mr. Maweli, do you think you are free next week? Our Minister of Defense, General Yuhas, will visit Russia in person. As for the order, we will fax it to your government later. The Israeli Defense Minister said to Maweli seriously on the phone. The Russian army attaches great importance to Maweli's opinion on the tornado self-propelled rocket launcher business. Because he has a business mind, he knows which arms to sell to which countries, and will not offend the original customers. After all, in addition to Russia, the United States, France, Britain, and Germany all sell arms abroad. The competition is not small. Maybe if you offend him today, the order of billions of dollars will fall on your opponent tomorrow. Okay, see you then. Maweli said and hung up the phone. The 1.5 billion arms order is a basic operation, and there is nothing to be surprised about now. But, the small order in his eyes is an astronomical figure in the eyes of the young Victoria's Secret model who got up and washed and accidentally heard him talking on the phone. After Maweli ended the call, he put the satellite phone on the coffee table. Then he and the group of Victoria's Secret models brushed their teeth and washed in the spacious bathroom. It felt like sleeping with 16 beautiful wives in one night. It was very full of life. Eat breakfast. This is the breakfast sandwich we made for you. The servant prepared a very rich breakfast for Maweli and others. The 2 models picked up a sandwich for Maweli, paired it with milk, and placed it in front of his seat. Thank you. Maweli expressed his gratitude. His politeness made the young models feel very gentlemanly and safe. However, just as Maweli was enjoying breakfast with a group of beauties, Saudi Arabia was far away, but undercurrents were surging, and it was extremely tense. Your Highness, according to reliable information, Israel wants to buy 100 whirlwind long-range rocket launchers from Russia, and the one in charge of this business is your Russian friend. What do you think we should do? Now His Royal Highness the King is negotiating with the Russian government, hoping that they will not sell arms to Israel. An old butler in Arab clothes found the Saudi prince anxiously and reported the news sent back by the intelligence officer. What? Israel wants to buy so many rocket launchers from Russia? The Russian friend you are talking about is Mavey? The Saudi prince originally wanted to take a private yacht to go fishing today. However, when this news came, he immediately lost the mood to eat, let alone fishing. Yes, Your Highness, that is Mr. Mavey. It seems that even the Russian military has to refer to his opinions on the self-propelled rocket launcher business. Do you think you should send someone to call him? To persuade him? The old housekeeper said with advice. In Saudi Arabia, there are more than 5,000 princes. The reason is that the founding king married 38 wives, so there were many sons. Then the son married more wives and gave birth to sons, that is, his grandsons. The princes of the royal family from generation to generation exceeded 5,000. Among these 5,000 princes, half are direct descendants of the founding king, and the other half are descendants of 5 brothers and cousins. Therefore, the struggle around the succession to the throne is very fierce. Every prince must have an outstanding performance, otherwise even if he is the crown prince now, he may be abolished one day and another crown prince will be appointed. No need to send someone to contact. I will call him myself. The Saudi prince did not want to be so arrogant and send someone to contact Mavey. In any case, Mavey is his strong ally in Russia. Losing such a friend would be very painful. 5 minutes later, the Saudi prince took his mobile phone and called someone. When the call was connected, he laughed heartily and said, Mavey, haha, my good brother. How have you been recently? I heard that you went to Dubai to attend the auto show some time ago. Bugatti Veyron, I ordered 3. The Saudi prince said his prepared opening remarks, but there was no voice from Mavey on the other end of the phone. May I ask who you are? He is not convenient to answer the phone now. Is there anything urgent? Maybe I can help you convey it later. The voice coming from the phone was from a woman. This made the Saudi prince so embarrassed. Oh, I'm his Saudi friend. My name is Mutable. When he is done, let him call back. The Saudi prince answered honestly. It is rare in this life to be able to make a big man of his level lower his posture. Okay, I understand, sir. The woman hung up the phone, not knowing that the person on the other end of the phone was the Saudi prince. In fact, the reason why this happened was that someone who was halfway through breakfast suddenly felt a little uncomfortable in his stomach. Chapter 340, Rocket launchers can't not be sold. So he had to go to the bathroom to solve his personal problems. Before solving them, he considered that if the phone rang, he would not be able to answer it. And it was really inconvenient to answer the phone while doing things. So he simply asked his friend to help answer the phone. If there was anything urgent, he would tell him immediately. If there was no urgent matter, he would deal with it after solving his personal problems. 10 minutes later, when Mavey came out of the bathroom comfortably, the young Victoria's Secret model who answered the phone for him conveyed the call just now to him. Mavey, a friend of yours in Saudi Arabia, Mr. Mutable, called you. He asked you to call him back. Mutable. Before Mavey could answer, the 2 young models who were eating breakfast on the side suddenly showed surprised expressions after hearing this name. Wait, you just said, Mutable? The Saudi prince? Oh my god, he called? The 2 young models who knew this name asked with surprise. They didn't expect that a random call from Mavey was actually from the Saudi prince. This face is really shocking. The commotion caused by the Saudi prince is still fermenting at the dinner table. It turned out that some young models who were unaware of the matter also enthusiastically participated in the discussion after learning about it. As the saying goes, 3 women make a play, and 16 women. This is not a problem of 5 plays. It is a huge chat disaster. Okay, give me the phone. It is good to say that women are good when they are good, but sometimes they are really annoying. Especially when there are 16 women in a room. This reminds Mavey every minute that you must not marry so many wives. Otherwise, every day is absolutely torture, and outsiders will never understand this kind of suffering. Mavey waved his hand and motioned to the person standing nearest to him to hand him the satellite phone on the coffee table. Isn't it just a call with the Saudi prince? Why make such a fuss? It's all basic operations. After getting the satellite phone, Maweli dialed the number on it casually, and then he suddenly found that the originally lively discussion at the dinner table suddenly became smaller after he dialed the phone. Of course, there were models who chose to be quiet in order to avoid disturbing Maweli's phone call. But another reason may be that they wanted to see what it was like to talk to the prince of a wealthy country. After feeling the vague concern around him, Maweli immediately chose to run into the bedroom, close the door, and talk to the Saudi prince about business. He would not lose his sense of propriety in order to show off or deliberately show off in front of women. Hello, your highness. Hello, you were looking for me just now? Sorry, I was away because of something. Maweli apologized on the phone. He almost guessed what Saudi Arabia was looking for him for. It was nothing more than the Tornado self-propelled rocket launcher. Haha. Maweli, my good brother. We haven't seen each other for a long time, right? How have you been recently? I heard that you came to Dubai to attend the International Auto Show some time ago. I ordered several of the newly released Bugatti Veyrons of your company. When will you come to Saudi Arabia to visit? I will take you to have fun. The Saudi prince continued his opening remarks. But there is no other way. After all, they don't want Russia to sell Tornado rocket launchers to Israel. This is equivalent to ruining Russia's business. As for the price Saudi Arabia will pay in the end, it depends on how to negotiate. The Saudi king negotiated directly with the Russian government. As a prince, he maintained relations with important Russian dignitaries. I'm afraid I don't have enough time to visit Saudi Arabia recently, your highness. After all, I think you also know that Israel has submitted an order for 100 ultra-long-range self-propelled rocket launchers to us, Russia. Maweli said lightly on the phone. There is no need to go around too many bends when communicating between smart people. Just point it out a little bit and everyone will understand. Okay, Maweli, to be honest, I made this call because of Israel. You also know that, since their country was founded, they have had a lot of conflicts with us, Saudi Arabia, and even the entire Arab League. If possible, can you help find a way to reject this order? As for compensation, everything is easy to negotiate. The Saudi prince directly confronted Maweli and said he estimated that the Russian government would definitely wait for the money, regardless of whether Saudi Arabia agreed or not. If there was to be a turnaround, it would have to rely on Maweli to come forward. There's no need for compensation, because the two sides have almost reached an agreement on this order. If you could call me earlier, maybe I could still find a way to save it. Maweli said to the Saudi prince helplessly. What he said was all true. Whether it was doing business or other things, there was a first come first served. The Israeli Ministry of Defense had placed an order for rocket launchers with him first. And it was agreed by Maweli himself. If he regretted it now and said he would not sell it, he would be a person who did not keep his word. This was not a question of money or not, but a matter that had already been decided. Even if he intervened, it would be very difficult. The key point was that it would destroy the good relationship he had established in front of the Russian government, which would not be worth a loss. The Saudi prince on the other end of the phone heard that Maweli could not agree to cancel the order. The Saudi prince immediately became anxious. Then, what should we do? If Israel buys back these 100 Tornado rocket launchers, it will be a huge threat to our Saudi Arabia. Maweli, do you have any way to help us, Saudi Arabia? On behalf of our Saudi royal family, I will never forget your kindness. The Saudi prince did not blame Maweli for not helping, because he knew that Maweli's position was mainly on the side of Russia. Besides, it was indeed himself who called late. If he could have called a few days in advance, maybe it would be a different situation. Maweli saw that the Saudi prince did not transfer his anger to him. So he thought that this person was not bad. At least in the face of danger, he was calm enough and knew who to ask for help. Instead of putting the responsibility or difficulties and temper on others. It shows that he has mature wisdom and mentality. There are ways, but it's not to hinder the order. But Maweli can feel that the Saudi prince is a malleable talent, and there is a high possibility that he will inherit the Saudi king in the future. So before he inherits the throne, it should be a good choice to give him some help and build a good relationship. Chapter 341 Ballistic Missile Instructions. And what is it, Maweli? I knew you had a way. Seeing that there was still a chance, the Saudi prince asked with a hint of joy on the phone. The way is, maybe we in Russia can sell you Saudi Arabia short-range ballistic missiles with a range of more than 500 kilometers. Mawey said directly and surprisingly. The Saudi prince on the other end of the phone almost popped his eyes out and sat on the sofa in surprise. What? Short-range ballistic missiles over 500 kilometers? Brother Mawey, aren't missiles with this range prohibited from being traded and proliferated? Can you Russians do it? The Saudi prince also knew about the International Missile Proliferation Treaty. Whether it is a country that sells missiles with a range of more than 300 kilometers or a country that purchases such ballistic missiles, all will be subject to the most severe sanctions by the world's major powers, especially NATO. This is not a joke. It is no exaggeration to say that buying such missiles is more terrible than the threat of Israeli arms. After all, the NATO alliance is the most powerful military organization in the world. There are only a handful of countries that have the strength to confront him. But then again, if Russia really has a way to circumvent NATO constraints and sell such long-range ballistic missiles to Saudi Arabia, then the 100 Tornado self-propelled rocket launchers purchased by Israel will not pose an arms threat. After all, in terms of accuracy, a few rocket launchers flying randomly are far less frightening than ballistic missiles. This is like the Dongfeng missiles that Saudi Arabia bought from country Z in the 1980s. Once they were shipped back to the country, no one in the entire Middle East dared to invade on a large scale. At most, there would be small-scale friction. Of course, we in Russia can't do it, so we can only sell ballistic missiles with a range of 300 kilometers. Then, we will give you a manual for the use of the missile, plus special rocket fuel. In this way, the missile with a range of 300 kilometers can be turned into 500 or even 600 kilometers. Mawey said vaguely on the phone. This kind of very sensitive transaction cannot be described in too much detail. After all, although the satellite phone in his hand is specially encrypted, but the spies of other countries almost always want to eavesdrop on or decrypt Mawey's daily communications. To know who he talks to on the phone every day, who he sends messages to, how many Russian military secrets he knows, etc. This will help to understand some of Russia's movements in advance. Because Mawey's words were too vague, the Saudi prince holding the phone in his hand could not understand what he was saying. Missile instruction manual? Special rocket fuel can become a range of 500, 600 kilometers? Brother Mawey, what are you talking about? I can't seem to understand. The Saudi prince was really confused by Mawey. But it's not his fault. After all, no one has ever heard of such an operation in this life. So it's impossible to understand the essence of it. If you can't understand it, forget it. It seems that I can only sell missiles to other countries. Mawey was helpless and joked on the phone. However, although he was joking, the Saudi prince on the other end of the phone took it seriously. No, Brother Mawey, why don't you wait for me? I'll take a plane right now and go to Russia to find you. The Saudi prince said to Mawey anxiously. He didn't want to miss the opportunity again. What about Israel or Iran, who got there first? Don't be so anxious. I'm not in Moscow now, but in China. Mawey said on the phone with a smile. Arms trading is the most fulfilling of all the businesses he runs. After all, the function, or power and influence of the goods, is very significant. It's not an exaggeration to say that it's enough to change the fate of a medium or small country. Ah, you are in China now? When will you return to Russia? The Saudi prince asked with great concern. He has set his sights on Mawey, and he is the kind who will never let go. About 2 days later, see you in Moscow then. Mawey said slowly on the phone. His state is in sharp contrast with the Saudi prince on the other end of the phone. Those who don't know him would think he is a prince. Okay, Brother Mawey, I'll leave it all to you this time. The Saudi prince said to Mawey sincerely. Well, don't worry, there is always a way to solve the problem. In order to let the other party sleep well these 2 days, Mawey did not forget to comfort him, which can be said to be very kind. After the phone call with a certain arms tycoon, the Saudi prince did not stop. Instead, he immediately ran to his father, the Saudi king, to inquire about the Russian government's purchase of ultra-long-range rockets by Israel. Father, has Russia agreed to reject Israel's purchase order? He asked the Saudi king respectfully, "Hey, you also know that we don't buy a lot of arms from Russia, so they won't reject this $1.2 billion order for us." The Saudi king sat in his seat a little tired. He had spoken to the Russian president on the phone before. However, the answer he got was a straightforward rejection. After all, Saudi Arabia only bought less than 1 billion arms from Russia last year. That is, the latest flamethrower tanks, plus short-range rockets. There was no further news after that. If Russia's ultra-long-range Cyclone rockets are delivered to Israel, then Saudi Arabia will have to consider purchasing the most advanced anti-missile system from the Americans to intercept these self-propelled rockets. But a mature anti-missile system is quite expensive. For example, the US Patriot anti-missile system is sold at a price of up to $10.5 billion US. The key is that this system cannot 100% guarantee that the self-propelled rocket launchers launched from Israel can be perfectly intercepted. According to the Patriot anti-missile system, the interception accuracy of Scud missiles is estimated to require an average of 3 to 4 anti-missile missiles to intercept these fast-moving things. In addition to the cost of purchasing the system, the consumption cost of launching anti-missile missiles is also extremely scary. The price of a rocket is several times cheaper than that of missile. The average is only $200,000 to $300,000 US. The anti-missile missiles used for interception start at least $1 million US. Launching 3 at a time is $3 million US. For a rocket launcher that consumes 300,000 per round, the amount difference is 10 times. Even if it is a wealthy country, it can't afford it. Others can easily spend 300 million, but he has to spend 3 billion to intercept, and there is no guarantee of 100% success. Just thinking about it makes people feel desperate. Chapter 342 Is that Maweli? After listening to his father's words, the Saudi prince nodded silently. Fortunately, he had a trick up his sleeve and called Maweli. Otherwise, he might not be able to help at all at this time. "Father, let me tell you our good news. A friend I met in Russia has a way to solve the Israeli crisis. I have made an appointment with him and will go to Moscow to discuss it in 2 days in order to make himself look capable." Even though the Saudi prince did not know what Maweli meant by the missile manual on the phone, he reported the good news to the Saudi king and said it directly. As soon as he finished speaking, the Saudi king leaning on his seat looked at him differently and asked, "Oh, what friend of yours in Russia has such great ability? Is he sure he can solve Israel's problem? He should be able to." "Father, I believe you have heard of my friend, Mavey. He is the largest arms dealer in Russia. He proved at the United Nations a while ago that Russia did not violate the Intermediate Range Missile Treaty. I heard that he also invested and paid for the research and development funds of the Tornado self-propelled rocket launcher." The Saudi prince introduced to his father with a smile. Knowing a friend like Mavey, even though he is the eldest prince of Saudi Arabia, he feels very proud. It is not like interacting with other people, all of whom have to rely on his prince's influence. "Mavey? The Mavey who sold Israel 100 rocket launchers?" The Saudi king couldn't help but get angry when he heard someone's name. Just now, when he was on the phone with the Russian president, the other party said that the business of self-propelled rocket launchers was handed over to a certain group of arms dealers. Although Mawei's name was not clearly stated, people who knew the business knew that the so-called group arms dealer was Mawei himself. There was no other such powerful arms group in Russia. Now the order has been sent to Israel, and a 30% deposit, which is $450 million US, has been paid first. If Russia does not do such a straightforward deal, it really means that it has too much money. However, on the contrary, they are very short of money. The Saudi prince did not know the content of his father's call with the Russian president. Judging from the reaction of the Saudi king, it seems that he is a little grudge against his Russian friend. Ahem. "Father, it's him. He has a way. Once the words are spoken, the water is spilled, and the Saudi prince can only admit it with a stiff upper lip. Put your hopes on someone." If he knew in advance that his father had such an attitude towards Mawei, then he would wait until the matter was resolved before telling everything. However, living with a king is like living with a tiger. You can never guess what the king will feel in the next second, whether it is good or bad. The Saudi king with a thick beard, after being angry with someone for a while, suddenly smiled and said to his son, "Have you ever heard a saying? The person who tied the bell can untie it. This Maweli is the key. When you go to Russia this time, don't go to shabby. Bring some gifts and specialties to let him feel the enthusiasm of our Saudi royal family." Although the Saudi king was indeed unhappy with the arms trade between Russia and Israel, he could not stop this situation, and it was inevitable. Instead of watching his mortal enemy equipped with the most advanced ultra-long-range rockets and threatening his own country, it is better to find someone and talk about solutions. It is not too late to mend the fold after the sheep have been lost. "Okay, father, I know. I will definitely show the enthusiasm of our Saudi royal family perfectly," the Saudi prince said with a smile, turning his worry into joy. Fortunately, he made the right bet, otherwise it would really be counterproductive. With the instructions of the Saudi king, this time the Saudi prince came to Moscow with a lot of money to find someone, have a long talk, and keep in touch. The last time he came to Russia to buy arms, the budget was less than 800 million. In the end, he made a temporary call and asked his father to remit more money to buy a flamethrower tank. 2 days later, an A380 passenger plane from Saudi Arabia landed at Moscow International Airport with great fanfare. The logo of the Saudi royal family was printed on the tail of the plane. You can tell at a glance that it is a plane from a rich country. At the same time, another Bombardier Global Express, which flew to the airport from the magic city of China, arrived at the airport platform one step later. From the perspective of size, the Bombardier Global Express is like a child playing house in front of the A380 passenger plane, very petite. Whether in size, momentum, or price, it is far inferior to the A380. However, such a sharp contrast makes the owner of the A380 aircraft dare not have any contempt or superiority over the Bombardier Global Express. The reason is that private jets are just a means of transportation. The key lies in the type of people sitting in the plane. Haha. Brother Maweli, you are back on time. I was just wondering if the plane would be delayed. I didn't expect it to be a coincidence that you came as soon as I thought of it. When someone got off his plane, the Saudi prince, who was wearing white Arab clothes and full of enthusiasm, immediately gave him a hug and a kiss on the cheek. Until now, Maweli is very unaccustomed to the Arab way of greeting. Between men, shaking hands is enough. Why do you have to be face to face, or even kiss the cheek or forehead to show intimacy? This is not a beautiful woman, but a little white hat with dark skin. There is also a thick beard on his face. Someone, such inner thoughts will naturally not be revealed on his face, or in his eyes. But then again, he obviously does not know how to appreciate the blessing. How many people want to kneel down and beg the Saudi prince to greet them intimately? The Saudi crown prince doesn't even look at him. But Maweli is good, secretly dislikes him in his heart. If this idea is known to the Saudi prince or his 5,000 brothers, the entire Saudi royal family will probably remember him for the rest of their lives. "Yes, your highness, it's really a coincidence," Maweli replied politely. "By the way, brother Maweli, why don't you get on the plane with me? My father asked me to bring you a gift from Saudi Arabia," the Saudi prince said to Maweli confidently. The gift he prepared this time can be said to show the style of a wealthy country. Hearing that the Saudi king actually asked the prince to give him a gift, Maweli raised his eyebrows in surprise. "Okay, then I'd rather obey than be respectful. Gifts are a testimony of friendship between people. Maweli will naturally not refuse them coldly and embarrass the Saudi prince." Chapter 343, Modifiable Hurricane Ballistic Missile. Although with his current wealth, he really has no shortage of gifts, but he still has to do some public socializing. This is international friendship. Haha. Brother Maweli, I believe you will like these gifts very much. The Saudi prince enthusiastically took Maweli on his A380 passenger plane. For a moment, Maweli was bored and thought that the other party would not care about anything and directly tie him up to Saudi Arabia as a guest. However, this idea was not just his random fantasy, because when Maweli followed the Saudi prince onto the plane and entered the cabin, he suddenly discovered there were 5 or 6 Arab women in the cabin, wearing black clothes, black cloth masks, and holding assault rifles. They seemed to have been waiting for a long time, standing there and watching him. To be honest, such a scene really made Mawei stunned for a while. But he soon discovered that the heavy weapons in the hands of those Arab women were all made of gold. For example, the golden AK-47, the golden M4 assault rifle, the golden Barrett sniper rifle, etc. This kind of firearms made of pure gold is a witness to high-level friendship in the Middle East. It is quite popular among the royal families and leaders in the Middle East, including the former president of Syria, the former king of Jordan and others, all of whom have presented gold guns to senior military and political officials of other countries. Brother Mawei, how do you like these gifts? They are all for you, including these gold magazines and 7.62mm bullets, which are all made of real gold. And these beauties in front of you are all carefully selected by me from Saudi Arabia. By the way, they are all innocent. 5 gold guns, plus 5 beautiful girls, are the gifts given by the Saudi prince to Mawei. The beautiful girls serve as maids for Mawei. In the Arab region, the status of most women is the same as that of goods, and they are all accessories of men. So in places like the UAE and Saudi Arabia, a man can marry many wives. And every woman usually needs to wear a mask when going out, which represents the status of women, which is really low. Mawei was really impressed by these gifts from the Saudi prince. The gold AK and gold M4 are not bad, and they are indeed very rich. But what are the 5 young women in the cabin doing? They are all covered with black cloth, and they are said to be beauties. What if the mask is taken off, and it turns out to be a girl with buck teeth? Can't I return it? No. Even if she is a top-notch beauty with a natural beauty, Mawei doesn't want others to give her the gift. Women should be chosen according to one's own preferences, as long as they feel right. A forced melon is not sweet. Ahem. Your Highness, thank you very much for your country's kindness. I appreciate it. Mawei couldn't refuse the Saudi prince openly and said that he didn't like the gift he gave. So he could only express his gratitude in a tactful way. However, the Saudi royal family all counted on someone to help them solve the Israeli problem. So the enthusiastic Saudi prince insisted on sending these gifts to Mawei's house and asked him to accept them. The gifts were given, and the relationship was established. Then the Saudi prince started the main topic. Brother Mawei, since we talked on the phone last time, I have always had a question to ask you. It's what you said last time, that a 300-kilometer range ballistic missile, with an instruction manual and rocket fuel, can have a range of more than 500 kilometers? And it doesn't violate the Anti-Missile Proliferation Treaty? In the past 2 days, the Saudi prince has been thinking over and over again how to achieve what Mawei said. But he thought about it and couldn't figure it out. Yes, Your Highness, the method is actually very simple. That is, our Russian scientists have modified the design based on the Scud missile. Let users who buy ballistic missiles can add fuel to the 300-kilometer range missiles they brought back to their country and remove some unnecessary components. Then its range will become 600 kilometers, and it is also precision guided, the kind that can hit whatever you point to. Mawei spoke lightly in front of the Saudi prince. As soon as he finished speaking, the Saudi prince standing in front of him suddenly stared at Mawei with his eyes wide open. It was obvious that the whole person's expression was saying, damn, there is such an operation? You Russians are too awesome. This really does not violate the Missile Proliferation Treaty. The Saudi prince was really deeply impressed by Mawei. I really don't know how such a monster came out, and he actually bypassed the Anti-Missile Proliferation Treaty that pressured all countries. Ahem. Your Highness, don't look at me like that. This is all the credit of our Russian scientists. Being stared at by the little white hat prince with wide eyes, Mawei really felt awkward. Brother Mawei, how do you sell this modified short-range missile? We Saudi Arabia needs a lot of this missile. The Saudi prince waved his hands and said to Mawei in a somewhat excited mood, if they, Saudi Arabia, are equipped with such short-range ballistic missiles, then Israel's 100 Tornado rocket launchers will no longer be a threat. After all, in terms of accuracy, the error of ballistic missiles completely crushes self-propelled rocket launchers. If Israel dares to launch ultra-long-range rocket launchers at Saudi Arabia, then Saudi Arabia's short-range ballistic missiles will definitely teach Israel a lesson. Power plants, army bases, air force bases, naval bases, and all facilities related to military strategy were all baptized by missile rain. And they can hit wherever they want, unlike self-propelled rocket launchers, whose error range can exceed several kilometers or even more than 10 kilometers. With this kind of armament threat, even a fool can see who is more powerful. The modified missile is like this. It is sold by launch system. The price of a system is $95 million. Each system can be equipped with a new type of Hurricane ballistic missile, which is a 600 kilometer range missile that can be modified by itself. As a profiteer, Mavey likes to maximize profits the most. The cost price of a modified Hurricane ballistic missile is only $350,000. The selling price of $3 to $4 million is already the highest. The supporting launch system is the only way to make the missile valuable. The two can be sold together and directly sold at a very high price. $95 million for a Hurricane launch system? How about this, brother Mavey? We Saudi Arabia will first buy about 15. Then we need 300 Hurricane ballistic missiles. Do you think that's okay? How much is it in total? The Saudi prince, who had money in his pocket, asked Mavey. This time, his father gave him $3 billion and asked him to solve the problem of Israel's arms threat. The logic of giving money is actually very simple. Chapter 344 Hurricane Modified Missiles, Limited Sale. Israel spent $1.5 billion to buy self-propelled rocket launchers. Then Saudi Arabia will spend 100% more. It will be more powerful than him. I'm afraid that won't work, Your Highness. In order to ensure the safety and rigor of our new Hurricane ballistic missiles, each one is personally reviewed and debugged by missile engineers. It is not like those assembly line products in military factories, which can be produced as many as you want. Therefore, each launch system is equipped with a maximum of 5 new Hurricane missiles. The price of a missile is $3.8 million. Mavey can be said to have brought the attribute of a profiteer to the extreme. Saudi Arabia wants to buy fewer expensive launch systems and more modified missiles. This is enough to threaten Israel and make them worry and sleepless at night. Mavey, on his side, has already calculated this. It is impossible to sell more missiles. They are not worth much at all. If you want to buy missile launchers, and then there will be a chance to limit the purchase of missiles. After all, these modified ballistic missiles are not available anywhere else. Even if Saudi Arabia buys from the Americans, it can only buy short-range missiles with a range of about 280 kilometers at most. Israel also has that kind of tactical missile, which does not pose much threat at all. After listening to the words of a profiteer, the Saudi prince standing in front of him suddenly opened his eyes wide and asked Mavey, brother Mavey, this launch vehicle can only be equipped with 5 missiles, which is too few. At least 10 or 20 missiles would be enough, the Saudi prince said to Mavey with all his strength. He originally thought that the $3 billion he brought was enough to squander in Russia. However, what he did not expect was that this new type of Hurricane ballistic missile was only sold for 3 missiles per vehicle. Then the 300 missiles that Saudi Arabia wanted would have to buy 100 missile launch vehicles. In this way, without $10 billion, don't even think about getting this number of missiles. Brother Mavey, 3 missiles are really too few. What if all the missiles are launched? Wouldn't the vehicle be wasted? The Saudi prince said to Mavey with emotion and reason. The purpose is to buy more new missiles from Russia. Your Highness, I didn't set this rule, so I can't do anything about it. Besides, this is a ballistic missile, not a self-propelled rocket launcher, and its destructive power is really huge. If your country launches all the Hurricane missiles it is equipped with, wouldn't Israel or other countries be mostly destroyed? Mavey answered unwaveringly. This kind of ballistic missile that can carry conventional warheads and nuclear warheads can bring devastating blows to any country. So it is reasonable for Russia to sell more. A launch vehicle with 3 missiles is already enough, and the right to launch the missile must be in the hands of the Russian military. In other words, if Saudi Arabia wants to launch these missiles, it must go through Russia and get the consent of the Russian military. After listening to Mavey's words, the Saudi prince was speechless and silent. His originally heroic mood suddenly dropped to the lowest point at this time. It seems that this time, the money is still a little too little. If I had known, I would have asked for an extra 3 or 4 billion. There is no need to be so tight on cash. Seeing that the Saudi prince was silent, Maweli smiled and said to him, "Your Highness, in fact, the price of our Hurricane missile launcher system is not expensive. You should know that the United States sells Poland M142 rocket launchers, and each system costs $35 million US. It is 20 million more expensive than our Russian ultra-long-range Cyclone rocket launcher. But its range is only 280 kilometers, and it does not have inertial guidance." Maweli said to the Saudi prince very frankly. The Americans sold Poland's rocket launcher system, which is really a new world of black. You should know that the domestic PHL-03 300mm rocket launcher, A200 rocket launcher, and R3 multifunctional rocket launcher are all inexpensive and very practical. Not only are they cheap, but they are also not much inferior to the M142 rocket launcher in terms of range and accuracy. So the price Maweli offered is really not expensive. He sells ballistic missiles, and they are the kind that other countries cannot sell. Okay, brother Maweli, how about this? Can you let me see the actual power of the Hurricane ballistic missile newly developed by you Russians? Don't worry, I can bear all the expenses for the missile launch. The Saudi prince wanted to see the accuracy and power of the missile. This would help him evaluate how many launch systems to buy back. That's no problem, Your Highness. You are a guest. I will bear the cost of the missile test. Maweli is not someone who can't afford that little money. How can he let the guests who came from afar pay for it themselves? Besides, the Saudi prince also gave him many golden weapons. It is not reasonable to accept this fee. But then again, he took the Saudi prince to witness the destructive scene of the flamethrower tank last year. This time, it is estimated that the Saudi crown prince is addicted to appreciating the explosion scene. So he really wants to see the real power of the Hurricane ballistic missile. Then I'll trouble you, brother Maweli. I'm looking forward to its test launch. The Saudi prince nodded to Maweli and said, because the exercise that the prince wanted to see was not arranged by the military. So Maweli asked his men to bring the satellite phone. He needed to contact the military. Hello, is this Lieutenant General Woodshire? This is Maweli. Regarding the new Hurricane ballistic missile, I need your approval for something. Maweli was very familiar with the Russian Army Lieutenant General on the phone. He remembered that 2 years ago, he was a little nervous when he first met the Russian Navy Lieutenant Colonel. However, now, he can deal with the generals at the level of Major General and Lieutenant General calmly, and he doesn't look like begging others to do things. Looking at Maweli's figure when he was on the phone, the casual feeling of chatting and laughing, the Saudi prince knew that this matter would probably not be difficult. Maweli's title as the most powerful arms dealer in Russia is indeed not a false reputation. Even the Russian military, which has always been known for its toughness, has to consider his suggestions. It can be seen that his influence in the military is not something that can be achieved with money. It is a kind of conviction. Okay, Your Highness, the problems with the missile test should have been solved. If nothing goes wrong, the Russian Army's 1032nd base will conduct a test in 2 days. They will invite you to watch and guarantee Your Highness's safety. Maweli, who had just finished talking to the military, said with a smile on his face. Now he has a certain influence in the Russian military. As long as he doesn't make a fool of himself and do something against the government, no one will dare to touch him in this life, including Maweli's descendants. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 345, The Cool Operation of Dismantling Missiles. 2 days later, Maweli took the Saudi prince to the Russian army base to observe the test launch of the Hurricane ballistic missile. In order to make the Saudi crown prince clearly aware of the accuracy and power of the Hurricane missile, the Russian military has made sufficient preparations. Your Highness, the missile launcher in front of you is our newly developed Hurricane missile system. Launched from the Army base, it can hit the uninhabited mountainous area 600 kilometers away and accurately hit the target. Accompanied by the Russian military, Mavey led the Saudi prince to a missile launch platform at the Army base. On the platform, there was a military green missile launcher. Because it is a short-range ballistic missile, it does not require a special launch silo, and its concealment and mobility are very good. The Saudi prince looked at the missile armored vehicle in front of him. Such a vehicle costs $95 million plus 2 missiles. The price will directly exceed $100 million. Even the world's most expensive sports car sold by Mavey, the Bugatti Veyron, has become very cheap in front of such high-end arms. Brother Mavey, I talked to my father yesterday. He said that, if your new Hurricane missile can really satisfy us, then Saudi Arabia has decided to order 45 units from your country at one time. The rich country also went all out. In order to put pressure on Israel, they changed the original budget of $3 billion to $5 billion. After all, compared with the expensive anti-missile system, Saudi Arabia needs such short-range missiles more simple and crude, and can make Israelis sleepless at night. Okay, your highness. Then let's go to a safer place, Mavey said, and nodded slightly to the Russian officer standing beside him. Meaning, you can start the missile test, and don't make any mistakes. I remember that in the previous life, the Russian military, which had been making mistakes all the time, crashed directly when launching missiles, and exploded. This quality of modified missiles really shouldn't be taken out to embarrass yourself. Otherwise, it's a small matter to make a fool of yourself, but it will cause a big incident if people are killed. No problem, brother Mavey, I'll listen to you, the Saudi crown prince said with a smile. The Saudi king praised his efforts in Russia over the past 2 days. The Saudi king was also very much looking forward to the modified missile that Mavey mentioned, so he was willing to spend an extra $2 billion as long as there was no problem with the missile. 2 minutes later, a team of Russian soldiers came to the launch platform with a truck carrying a Hurricane ballistic missile and rocket fuel. At this time, Mavey and the Saudi prince, led by a Russian officer, came to the safe house far away from the platform to watch. Your highness, the 7-meter-long missile you saw is a modified Hurricane ballistic missile. Before leaving the factory, its range was only about 280 kilometers. But if you follow our instructions and add an appropriate amount of rocket raw materials to boost it, then its range can be at least doubled, Mavey said to the Saudi prince indifferently. The modification of ballistic missiles must be strictly implemented in accordance with regulations. Otherwise, accidents are likely to occur. Under Mavey's explanation, the Saudi prince looked at the pair of Russian soldiers in the distance, and it was indeed the same as Mavey said. Using professional tools, he carefully disassembled the missile. Then he added rocket fuel into it. The whole operation process does not seem difficult. I believe that after Saudi Arabia buys the missiles, they should be able to modify them by themselves after receiving guidance. Then let the Israelis look bad. Brother Mavey, to be honest, this is the first time I have seen a scene like this, the Saudi prince said to Mavey half jokingly. Since he met someone, his series of things he has never seen before has been expanded a lot. First it was an ultra-long range rocket launcher, and now it is a modified missile. If the situation continues to develop like this, I'm afraid that one day Mavey will be able to put an intercontinental missile on the test bench and create a new thing that makes people stunned. This is the first time I have seen it too, Mavey said truthfully. This kind of operation of dismantling missiles can only be done by those who are skilled and courageous. If you are a coward, don't even think about dismantling missiles with a wrench. Even thinking about it makes me feel scared. Mr. Mavey, your highness, the missile test will start in 3 minutes. Our test target this time is a military helicopter parked 600 kilometers away. We parked it in an uninhabited mountain area in advance. This is the real-time monitoring of the helicopter. You will be able to see it directly when the missile hits the target later. When the missile was modified, the Russian officer introduced it to Mavey and the others with confidence. By the way, Mr. Mavey, your highness, our new Hurricane missile will take about 20 minutes to hit the target. So after the missile is launched, if you feel bored, you can rest in the next room for a while. It does take a lot of time for the missile to fly over a distance of 600 kilometers. During this process, the only thing you can see is a green dot representing the missile on the radar. It will move towards the target at a speed visible to the naked eye until it is destroyed. Okay, Your Excellency Major General. Maweli and the Saudi prince nodded. To say that the missile flight process is indeed a bit dull, but the picture of its launch is absolutely wonderful. 3 minutes later, Maweli and the Saudi prince in the safe house saw the Russian Major General suddenly picked up the intercom on the table and then said to his soldiers, "Hurricane number 1, please answer if you hear me. You are about to carry out the missile launch mission. Now make the final confirmation." A second later, the other end of the intercom replied, "Yes, sir. The preparations have been completed and the target has been confirmed. Please give instructions." "Okay, listen to my command. Countdown now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch." Following the Russian Major General's countdown of 5 seconds, as soon as his voice fell, the missile launcher on the platform in the distance suddenly fired a 7-meter long short-range ballistic missile at a 45-degree angle towards the sky. Suddenly, the missile launcher was surrounded by a raging fire. Thick and strong smoke, under the spray of flames, filled the surroundings of the vehicle. The launched Hurricane short-range missile flew out of the launcher with the help of rocket fuel. It roared towards the armed helicopter 600 kilometers away. The fierce scene of the missile launch was much more fierce than the Western dragon-breathing fire special effects in the movie. Maweli and the Saudi prince in the safe house stood by the window for a long time, looking at the direction of the missile launch. Chapter 346. Maweli's privileges as a rich man make the Saudi prince envious. In just a few seconds, a missile worth $35 million was launched into the sky. Arms are indeed something that ordinary rich people cannot afford. Why is it 35 million, not $3.8 million? That's because the total cost of the missile and the car is $107 million. The missile cannot be purchased separately, and the average price of one is 35 million. After the launch, the car is temporarily useless, unless Russia is willing to make a follow-up transaction. At the same time as the Hurricane ballistic missile was launched, a green dot representing the missile appeared on the military radar in the safe house. "Okay, Your Highness, I'm afraid we have to wait another 20 minutes to witness whether this Hurricane missile can accurately hit the target," Maweli said, and took out his Google phone. Since he got a smartphone, his life has become more abundant. His free time is also filled with mobile phones. Of course, as a Saudi prince, he also has his own Google phone, and usually, he likes to spend time on his mobile phone. But, when he saw the gold Google phone in Maweli's hand, the Saudi prince was surprised, but he raised his eyebrows as expected. "Brother Maweli, does Google still have this phone? Although it is only $500 or $600, in the eyes of these wealthy people in the Middle East, they are willing to buy it, even if it costs tens of thousands. The reason is that smartphones are really great. Well, it seems to be this one." Maweli shrugged slightly embarrassedly. "This is the only gold Google phone in the world, marked gold plus exclusive signature, and there is indeed only one." But he did not ask for customization. "Then Brother Maweli, can you help me get one? I think this gold color looks very good." The Saudi prince asked Maweli with an expectant expression. "It should be no problem. I will ask for you when the time comes." Maweli is not a stingy person. "Isn't it just a gold Google phone? It's only $100 more expensive at most. However, there is no exclusive signature privilege in the phone. This privilege is not only in WeChat chat, but also includes any software and any game produced by the Android store in the future. As long as the identification code information in Maweli's mobile phone is authenticated, he will enjoy unsurpassed privileges. For example, in the future, when Maweli plays mobile games developed by Blizzard and Google, he will definitely get top quality equipment easily. Other local tyrants may spend tens of thousands of dollars to get top quality cards and weapons, but he can get them in one step, and the god equipment is in place. "Thank you very much, brother," the Saudi prince said to Maweli with gratitude. Little did he know that he only cared about the appearance, and the inner knowledge was great. The Google mobile phone invested and developed by someone is called a high-tech product that changes at times by more and more users. Originally, the mobile phones they used could only make calls and send messages. It was far from being like now, where you can listen to music, take pictures, chat online, and play mobile games. Not only that, the WeChat chat created by Mawei has also set off a big wave of popularity worldwide. Even the Saudi prince in the room is using WeChat. His WeChat friends are awesome, either the Prince of Dubai or the Princess of Jordan. Brother Mawei, do you have WeChat? I'll add you. We have an Arab League royal group, and they often discuss you in the group. The Saudi prince asked Mawei with a smile. Sure, just scan it, and you can add friends. It was the first time that Mawei was asked for WeChat by a prince of a wealthy Middle Eastern country, so he opened his quarter code and gave it to the Saudi prince, asking him to scan it and add friends. However, the Saudi prince was just a mobile phone beginner, and faced with this quarter code that no one could understand, he really didn't know how to operate it for a while. He had added friends before, all by searching by account or mobile phone number. He had never used quarter codes before. This scan. The Saudi prince tried to scan his Google phone over Mawei's phone. He thought that the two phones were equipped with some kind of sensing facilities and could add each other as friends by getting close to each other. His idea was really too advanced. But unfortunately, the technology was too advanced, and the key was not practical at all. Click on the scan icon, then aim the camera at the WeChat quarter code, and you can add friends. Mawei patiently said to the Saudi prince. Such a scene reminded him of the first time many middle-aged and elderly people came into contact with smartphones. Oh, so WeChat has this function. After seeing Mawei click on the scan function and both parties successfully added friends, the Saudi prince smiled and said, Brother Mawei, I will add you to the chat group now. It is full of royal family members of our Arab League countries. Wait for me for a moment, the Saudi prince said, dragging Mawei into the group with his very unfamiliar operation. Let me introduce you to everyone. This is my good brother in Russia, Mawei. He is also the one you often talk about. The Saudi prince took more than 2 minutes to type just 40 characters. This is all because the smartphone has just been purchased and he is not used to the Google full keyboard input method. As soon as he introduced Mawei, some royal nobleman said something very interesting. Another big guy has entered the group, and the group status has dropped by -1. Whether they are royal family members or ordinary young pioneers, in private, they are just like ordinary people, with 7 emotions and 6 desires: joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness. So just looking at the content of these chats, others will never associate them with the royal family of the Middle East. Mawei from Russia, has he entered the group? The Google phone developed by his company is really great. I almost never leave my phone now. Me too, haha. I don't know where I abandoned my original Nokia. Looking at the chat messages in the group, Mawei casually clicked on their avatars. Then he found that these people's circle of friends is really the world's top circle of friends. The 3 meals they eat on weekdays, the services they enjoy, and the places they go to play are all luxurious. Compared with the circle of friends posted by Mawei himself, these are simply awesome. Because Mawei doesn't post on the circle of friends very often. Hello everyone, I'm a new member of the group. Please take care of me. Mawei immediately joined in the jokes and sent a message. We are all young people and rarely have stereotypes. We are also very active in chatting. Chapter 347 The Significant Hurricane Ballistic Missile. Haha, hello, little newbie, why do you have so few friends? Brother, your friend circle, why is there a Taiwanese gold plus mark for every status you post? But ours doesn't? A prince in the group asked Mawei in confusion, after adding him as a friend and peeking at his friend circle. It may be a version problem, just refresh it. Mawei would not be too pretentious and say that the entire Google company belongs to him, and getting a unique signature is not a piece of cake. However, the above reason quickly made many princes and princesses in the group understand. This is Mawei's privilege as the chairman of Google. Because the chat atmosphere in the group was very active, the 20-minute missile waiting time almost passed in a flash. Chatting is certainly relaxing and enjoyable, but the arms business is a real business. Maweli had been paying attention to the military radar in the room, and when the missile was about to approach the designated area, he reminded the Saudi prince, "Your Highness, it seems that the Hurricane missile just launched is about to fly to the target area." After hearing this, the Saudi prince turned his attention away from his mobile phone, and then he saw that the green dot on the military radar and the red dot of the target were almost overlapping. This means that in less than 2 minutes, we will witness the power and accuracy of the Hurricane missile. Time passed by minute, and Maweli and the Saudi prince in the room watched the missile fly closer and closer to the target, until the two of them suddenly discovered that on the live broadcast screen, a grey missile with flames was swooping straight towards the camera from the other side of the sky. The Russian military installed many cameras next to the helicopter, so that the real-time picture captured was all round. It is more authentic and ornamental. Before the missile flew in the air for too long, it dived towards the helicopter from a high altitude at an extremely fast speed, and with great momentum. It happened so fast that Maweli and the Saudi prince could not see the missile falling. Then a huge explosion appeared on the screen. Then, the signals of 6 cameras lost contact. Only 2 cameras shooting in a safe area recorded the process of the missile attack. The scene can be described as a moment of destruction. Before Maweli and the Saudi prince could react, the military helicopter that was originally intact in front of them was torn to pieces in the explosion, and the wreckage was flying everywhere with flames. Pa. Seeing such a precise Hurricane ballistic missile launched from a location 600 kilometers away, and then perfectly hitting the target, the Saudi prince was very satisfied and applauded on the spot. "It's wonderful, brother Maweli. I have decided to order 45 of your Russian Hurricane missile launch system." The Saudi prince said firmly in the room, $5 billion US. This money is not wasted. Just as Maweli said, the 280-kilometer range rocket launchers that Poland purchased from the United States cost $35 million US each. Such an accurate short-range ballistic missile, and with a range of 600 kilometers, is sold for $95 million US, which is already very cost-effective. If it is sold to the Americans, the price will at least double. Okay, Your Highness, I'm glad that your country can make this decision. Maweli is still willing to negotiate the $5 billion US order. Fortunately, the Russian military handed these businesses to him to manage. Otherwise, if it were someone else, it would be difficult to sell half of it, let alone $5 billion US. It is far from maximizing profits like someone else. Haha. Happy cooperation. By the way, brother Maweli, can I take a copy of the video just now and show it to my father? The Saudi prince suddenly remembered something and asked Maweli. He needed the video as proof to go back and tell his father that the $5 billion US was well spent. After buying such a precise ballistic missile, the Israelis will definitely feel that their Tornado rocket launcher is a joke in front of the Hurricane missile. There is no way to be compared like this, because Russia sells both rocket launchers and tactical missiles. There is no problem with the video, Your Highness. We will provide the flight records and flight data of the Hurricane missile. Maweli understood what the Saudi prince wanted the video for, so he was very considerate and gave him more professional data proof. These are not particularly important military secrets. After all, Saudi Arabia can also do data monitoring in this regard after buying it back. That's great, brother Maweli, thank you. Oh, by the way, there is also that gold Google phone, brother, don't forget it. The Saudi prince was thinking about Maweli's customized phone until the end. This really made someone laugh and cry. So, many local tycoons worth tens of billions or hundreds of billions have their little hobbies. It's not a matter of money, but just like, Your Highness, don't worry, I will definitely do what I promised you. Maweli replied with a smile. The missile test just now really worried him for a while. Although the missile was developed and improved on the basis of the Scud missile. But Maweli is very clear about how muddle-headed the Russians are. It is very likely that the missile will deviate from the established route and explode on the next mountain. In this case, the $5 billion order will be ruined. It is better not to test it and keep it stable and do a $30 job. In the past 2 years, since he was reborn in Russia, Mavey has seen awesome drivers driving heavy trucks and drinking whiskey on snowy days and drifting around corners when he is in the mood. In addition to these desperate people, Russian scientists are also amazing. A scientist engaged in aerospace industry crashed a satellite worth $210 million on the spot during the operation. Well, the Russian scientists are not to blame, because the Americans have done this, and the satellite they crashed is worth $290 million. When the Saudi prince returned to Saudi Arabia with the video and data provided by the Russian military, his father, the Saudi king, was very happy after watching it. He also felt that the money was not wasted. This time, we did a good job. When the Russian Hurricane missiles are delivered to the country, we will test fire 2 missiles immediately to let the Israelis see them. The Saudi king clenched his fist and said to the Saudi prince, "You must use the weapons you buy, otherwise people will think you buy these missiles for collection." Especially since the Israelis bought the Tornado rocket launcher first. The missile test fire is of great significance. Chapter 348. Okay, father, Russia has agreed to deliver the first batch of Hurricane missiles in 2 weeks. The Saudi prince owed someone a favor for this matter. Although it was a business, Mavey did help them solve a big hidden danger. 2 weeks later, the 5 Hurricane ballistic missile systems delivered by the Russian military, plus 15 Hurricane missiles, were successfully transported to Saudi Arabia. There were no accidents on the road, which was quite lucky. As soon as the Hurricane missiles arrived in Saudi Arabia, the Saudi king, who had been looking forward to it for a long time, brought his concubines and children to the army missile launch base for a military review. They wanted to see how powerful the ballistic missiles that had just arrived from Russia were. In order to ensure that there would be no problems with Saudi Arabia's missile test, Mavey specifically asked the Russian military to send engineers to Saudi Arabia with the missile launcher and teach the Saudi military, which is a scumbag, how to modify the missiles and successfully launch them. The scene was once very novel. Not only the Saudi king, princess, princes, and princesses had never seen such a missile that could be disassembled, assembled, and refueled. Even the Saudi army saw such a magical ballistic missile for the first time. That is to say, the original range of this missile is 280 kilometers. Now after adding rocket fuel and removing some weight reducing accessories, it can fly 600 kilometers away, and it is also precision guided. The Saudi army generals asked the Russian missile engineer curiously. Yes, general, the addition of rocket fuel and the removal of accessories must be strictly carried out according to this manual. Otherwise, if there is any accident, we, Russia, will never be responsible. The missile engineer answered seriously and solemnly. Because it is a convertible ballistic missile, in order to ensure absolute safety and flight distance, so its flight speed is not very fast. Abandoning the supersonic flight mode, it is necessary to sacrifice speed to ensure the long distance flight of the missile, in order to avoid it from being launched not long after, because it flies too fast, the fuel is exhausted in advance, and it suddenly crashes or explodes. But then again, this is the first generation of convertible missiles developed by the Russian military. By the second and third generations, the speed and performance will be improved. Under the on-site guidance of Russian engineers, 2 Hurricane ballistic missiles were loaded and sent to the missile launcher. Not long after, the Saudi king, who had been waiting for a long time, ordered on the spot to send the 2 Hurricane ballistic missiles to the no man's land in the northwest of Saudi Arabia. There, the Saudi king specially arranged to temporarily build a simulation base for missile testing. The reason for choosing that place is that it is the intersection of the border between Saudi Arabia and Israel. There is nothing more satisfying than launching missiles in front of your own house to scare the enemy. Anyway, it is their own territory that is bombed, and the other party can't do anything to them. With the order of the Saudi king, 2 short-range ballistic missiles loaded on the vehicle roared into the sky in flames and thick smoke. Then they fulfilled their mission and directly hit the simulation base 600 kilometers away. The Saudi royal family and the Saudi army felt the hardcore strength of Russia. Great. This is really great. I will arrange to entertain these guests from Russia tonight. Also, I will hold a press conference later. The Saudi king said to the servant happily. He held a press conference to announce to the entire Middle East that Saudi Arabia has short-range missiles with a range of 600 kilometers. Hostile countries, such as Israel and Iran, should be careful. If he is irritated, the landing point of these ballistic missiles may no longer be a simulated base. Instead, it will be the power stations, airports, military bases, etc. of these two countries. It is an ultra-precise strike, not a rocket launcher that flies blindly. Strategic targets cannot be hit, but nearby civilians will suffer. Yes, Your Majesty. The servant took the order and left. Then, 5 minutes later, reporters from various countries who had been waiting in the base saw the Saudi king, who came excitedly. Everyone, I want to announce a good news to you. That is, our Saudi Arabia has introduced 45 of their newly developed Hurricane ballistic missile systems from Russia. The initial range of this missile is 280 kilometers. But after modification and upgrading, it can accurately hit targets or buildings 600 kilometers away. Just now, our Saudi army launched 2 Hurricane missiles on the base platform. I believe everyone has heard some movement. And these 2 ballistic missiles finally accurately hit our Saudi Arabia, a temporary simulated base built in the Tabuk border area. The Saudi king said, and asked military technicians to show the photos of the missile launch, as well as related flight data and certificates to the reporters on the scene. This increased the authenticity of his words. It can also make the Israelis nervous after the media reports of various countries ask them to buy ultra-long-range rocket launchers. Saudi Arabia has tactical missiles. After listening to these words of the Saudi king, the reporters on the scene were shocked and carefully watched the proof given by the military. Your Majesty, a ballistic missile with a range of 600 kilometers. Doesn't this violate the Anti-Missile Proliferation Treaty? A reporter asked hesitantly. Of course not. When we bought the missile from Russia, its range was only 280 kilometers. The Saudi king also needs to take this opportunity to clarify that Saudi Arabia has not violated any international treaties. So the major powers in the world, such as the United States, Britain, France, and Germany, should never talk to him about any treaty issues. After hearing such a sophistry, that it is difficult to find a flaw in the answer, many reporters present nodded, thinking that the words made sense. There is really nothing wrong with this. When the transaction was made, the range was 280 kilometers, and after buying it, it was modified to 600 kilometers by itself. Who invented this missile? It's too magical, right? This reminds me of Russia's ultra-long-range rocket launcher, which perfectly bypasses various treaty restrictions. Some reporters present quickly understood the mystery of the Hurricane missile, and they felt a little admiration for the person who invented it. Just when the Saudi king held a press conference, because of the missile attack in the Saudi Tabuk border area, the Israeli military, which has been monitoring the area, felt very strange. They sent people to investigate the Saudi's construction of a temporary base at the border 2 days ago. Chapter 349. Egypt and Israel also rushed to buy. Unexpectedly, it was bombed in a blink of an eye. What exactly is the Saudi Arabian up to? The Israeli military was puzzled. Saudi Arabia's neighbor Jordan and Egypt, which live next door, also couldn't understand the situation. The Tabuk area is the intersection of the borders of 4 countries. It borders Jordan, is not far from Israel, and is also very close to Egypt. It is simply a matter of moving a hair and affecting the surrounding 3 countries. Speaking of Jordan and Egypt, there are a lot of stories. Originally, it was Egypt, the big brother in the Middle East, that attacked Israel. Saudi Arabia and other Arab countries responded to the call and jointly launched the Middle East war against Israel. However, for some reasons of interest, the Egyptians who finally proposed to start the war actually shook hands with Israel after the war. This angered Saudi Arabia and other Arab countries. Even Saudi Arabia and other countries removed Egypt from the Arab League, that is, the Arab League. As for Jordan, which is sandwiched between Saudi Arabia and Israel, it originally actively responded to the call to attack Israel, the thorn. But after fighting several wars, the Jordanians suddenly found that they didn't get any benefit at all. On the contrary, they ruined the economy. Moreover, the armies of various countries all had to enter Israel from Jordan, which made the Jordanian people hate war very much. The key is that you fight when you fight, and you pass when you pass. In the end, after 5 battles, you still can't win. Israel is still stubbornly holding on, and it is not afraid of the Arab League at all. What kind of combat strength does the Arab League coalition have? So many countries have besieged Israel, but they haven't beaten it into submission. No wonder it can fight most of the Middle East with the power of one country. The 3 surrounding countries, Israel, Jordan, and Egypt, can't understand the situation only temporarily. When the reporters who participated in the press conference reported the words said by the Saudi king, and the materials they got out, the first to cause an uproar were Israel, Jordan, and Egypt. What? Was the missile attack yesterday a ballistic missile test fired by the Saudis? The range is 600 kilometers. So, as long as they launch missiles at the Tabuk base, they can directly hit Jerusalem. The Israeli defense minister was sweating as he watched the news report. Combined with the photos and information sent by the military yesterday, Israel is in big trouble now. Also frightened were the Egyptians, who were strangers to the Arab League. When they learned that Saudi Arabia had actually introduced such a shocking thing from Russia, Egypt also wanted to go to Russia to buy a large number of such refittable tactical missiles. Is it confirmed? The initial range of the missile is 280 kilometers. After it is purchased, it can be refitted to a range of 600 kilometers. The Egyptian military was very excited to study the Russian Hurricane missile. You know, the Middle East is famous for its love of buying arms. They lack independent research and development capabilities. When their equipment is aging and needs to be replaced, they will introduce the latest armaments from the major military powers in the world. Moreover, these countries in the Middle East are all local tyrants, and they will never be soft when buying equipment. Egypt is not a pushover either. Arms orders are bought for billions of dollars. Bargaining is rare. They are very rich. Confirmed, General, and we have also learned that the person in charge of the Hurricane missile project transaction is Mr. Mavey from Russia. We have obtained his contact information. The arms race was the sword that disintegrated the Soviet Union. However, it is not possible without competition, because a country with weak military capabilities is easily bullied in all aspects. For example, since a certain country has an aircraft carrier, the friction between the 2 neighboring countries at sea has really subsided a lot. Even if they are stubborn and insist on a head-on confrontation, they often give in first during the confrontation. After all, an aircraft carrier battle group is an important criterion for measuring a country's maritime combat power. As long as it appears at sea, it will be a very serious threat to a single destroyer group or frigate group. With the medium-range missiles on land and the nuclear submarines under the water, the Egyptian military immediately contacted Mavey after getting his contact information. Hello, is this Mr. Mavey? We are from the Egyptian Army Command. Hello. Regarding the modified missiles sold to Saudi Arabia by your country, how much is one? We also need to buy some. The representative of the Egyptian army asked on the phone with a respectful attitude. This is the first time they have contacted the Russian military, so they don't know much about the rules of the transaction. They only know that they want to buy the Hurricane missile. Mavey, who answered the phone, thought for a while, and then answered on the phone. Hello, the Hurricane ballistic missile is sold according to the launch system. The price of one is $95 million US, and the price of one missile is $4 million. Each launch system is limited to purchasing 3 Hurricane missiles. Doing business also requires principles, so Mavey treats everyone equally and will not deliberately make things difficult for Egypt. Mr. Mavey, a Hurricane launch system can only be equipped with 3 ballistic missiles. What should we do if all the missiles are launched? The Egyptian military also felt that the missiles were too few. In addition, the price was much more expensive than they imagined. In fact, we don't want your country to really launch all the missiles, because once that situation comes, it means that your country is likely to be in war. So it mainly serves as a deterrent, not really used for attack. One of Mavey's principles in doing arms business is not to let it become an accomplice of war. As long as the country that buys arms does not use his weapons to fight others and increase the killing, then this business can be done. That's why the number of ballistic missiles is controlled within 3, and the right to launch missiles is still in the hands of the Russian military. In this way, there is no need to worry about those countries using their missiles to attack others. In the end, it attracted a lot of international condemnation. Okay, Mr. Mawei, then our Egyptian army may need to purchase about 20 missiles. The representative of the Egyptian army said to Mawei on the phone according to the order of his superiors. This is how the arms race works. Neighboring Saudi Arabia has 45 powerful ballistic missile launch systems. Egypt must buy at least half of them for self-defense. If it weren't for Saudi Arabia's move, they would hardly buy such an expensive missile launch system. Chapter 350 Global Unified Price. Missile sales are so good, other countries are in trouble. Sure, then we welcome your army to come to Russia. Mawei knew that the business discussed on the phone was just the beginning. How to negotiate and how to close the deal. Each customer's needs are different. It will definitely happen, Mr. Mawei. The higher-ups are arranging a visit to Russia in the near future. I estimate that there will be news in the next 2 days. The representative of the Egyptian army said to Mawei affirmatively. This batch of equipment of their army has reached the point of aging and obsolescence. In addition to ballistic missiles, fighter jets, tanks, armored vehicles, and warships all need to be replaced. There will be many business cooperations in the future. Okay, then I'll wait for the news from you. Mawei said indifferently on the phone. This kind of business that comes to your door is really easy to do. As long as there are no big problems, it can generally be negotiated. He had just finished talking to the Egyptian army when the Israeli Ministry of Defense came running over to ask, Mr. Mawei, I'm from the Israeli Ministry of Defense. Your country sold Saudi Arabia a ballistic missile with a range of 600 kilometers 2 days ago. We just completed a transaction with your country for $1.5 billion of self-propelled rocket launchers. The representative of the Israeli Ministry of Defense said on the phone with resentment. If they had known that this would be the result, they should have directly purchased ballistic missiles instead of self-propelled rocket launchers. This money was spent so embarrassingly. The Hurricane ballistic missile was only recently developed. It has always been a military secret before. Mawei replied helplessly. Although this military secret is not a secret to him, it's just to maximize the benefits and let countries compete with each other. He will definitely not reveal this matter and ask Israel not to buy long-range rocket launchers and buy ballistic missiles instead. After listening to Mawei's reply, the representative of the Israeli Ministry of Defense on the other end of the phone had no choice but to admit defeat, because he had no choice but to admit defeat. Who said that there is a huge disparity in power between the two countries? Israel can offend Saudi Arabia and the Arab League, but it can never offend Russia. This is not only because the Russians are tough. If the Afghan Al-Qaeda bombs one of their planes, they will dare to mobilize the whole country to eliminate the terrorists. More importantly, Israel can't find any other country to buy arms except Russia. Americans don't like him, and Europeans don't want to pay attention to such a thorn. Only Mawei, a conscientious arms dealer who works hard and works from dawn to dusk. Obviously, he is rich and wealthy, and the family property left behind can be enjoyed by several generations. But he has been working hard in his career and fighting for it. So Mr. Mawei, how do you sell this Hurricane ballistic missile in your country? Can we exchange the 65 Cyclone rocket launchers that have not been delivered for Hurricane missiles at the same price? The Israelis used their brains, that is, they wanted to exchange goods for ballistic missiles. However, this road is definitely not feasible for Mawei, otherwise he would not be named Ma. I'm sorry, I'm afraid this won't work, because the orders submitted have been arranged for production. If your country is interested in our Hurricane missiles, maybe you can come and have a look someday. Mawei will not give up any opportunity to do business, especially with an old acquaintance like Israel. The representative of the Ministry of Defense was silent for more than 3 seconds on the other end of the phone, and then asked thoughtfully, how much is one? The global unified price is $95 million. Mawei replied. His current situation can be described by a sentence on the internet. I like the way you are unhappy with me, but can't get rid of me. Indeed, Israelis love and hate Russia. Before, they were very grateful for the ultra-long-range rocket launchers exported by Russia. But 2 or 3 weeks later, they felt very uncomfortable and even a little heartbroken. Then let's think about it, Mr. Mawei. The Israeli Ministry of Defense is going to make a military budget again. Saudi Arabia spent $5 billion to deter Israel. So, Israel has to spend at least 1.5 billion US dollars to make up 3 billion US dollars to ensure that it will not be completely at a disadvantage. Okay, just call me when the time comes. Mavey would not push too hard. Anyway, this Hurricane modified missile is only available in this store. There is no other place to sell it. Mavey's arms business during this period can be said to be smooth sailing. But life is not always smooth sailing. Billions, even tens of billions of US dollars in arms orders are about to flow into the pockets of Russians. The European Union, which has always been at odds with him, has joined forces with many countries to launch a new round of suppression and difficulties against Russia's export-oriented Hurricane missiles. The Hurricane ballistic missile developed by Russia has a range of more than 600 kilometers, so we think that it has violated the Anti-Missile Proliferation Treaty in disguise, and the export of the missile should be stopped immediately, and give Russia the most severe punishment. The first to jump out and call for a boycott was naturally France, which suffered a setback in the naval war some time ago. France is also a major arms trader. Its Mirage 2000 fighter jets, AMX main battle tanks, air-to-air missiles, and ground-to-ground missiles have always been popular among small and medium-sized countries. So whether it is based on new or old hatreds, or because their business is threatened by Russia, the French certainly do not want to see the Hurricane missile selling well around the world. We think that Russia has gone too far in recent times. First, it developed a self-propelled rocket launcher with a very long range, skirting the Intermediate Range Missile Treaty. Now it is this ballistic missile with an increased range, which ignores the Anti-Missile Proliferation Treaty. If the situation continues to develop like this, God knows what kind of arms monsters the Russians will develop to destroy world peace. The countries that issued this statement include South Korea, Japan, Turkey, the United Kingdom, Germany, and many other countries. Some of them have had conflicts with Russia. For example, South Korea, Turkey, Japan, and some are on the European Union side, which have been disliking Russia for a long time. Faced with the joint statement of these countries, the Russian president naturally responded immediately with a tough attitude. Russia's latest developed Hurricane ballistic missile has an initial range of only 280 kilometers and does not violate any international treaty. If any country dares to make specious claims and says it wants to impose joint sanctions on Russia and launch an economic war, then our Russian government will have to take special measures. For example, deploy some against certain countries in Europe and Asia. The Russian president will not make his words very clear. Otherwise, he will be criticized. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.